Yeah. Let me get to the front of my agenda here. Okay. Good evening. I am calling to order the Pacific Grove Unified School District Board of Education regular meeting Thursday, November 2nd, 2023. It is 5:30 p.m. As we begin this meeting, it is important to pay respect to and acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Ohlone, Costanoan, and Esselen people, and additionally pay respect to elders both past and present. Can I get a roll call, please?
President Swanson.
Here.
Dr. Hazen.
Here.
Trustee Altmar.
Here.
Trustee McNary.
Here.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Here.
Interim Superintendent Joshua Jorn. Here.
Thank you so much. We definitely have a quorum. We have all 5 trustees here. So question about throughout the night when we have a vote, do you want me to call Carly's name or are you going to be doing the vote?
It's me all night.
Okay. You're here. You're here all night. Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, next up is adoption of the agenda. Board, I made a mistake today. I thought, I got confused. I went ahead and let an appellant who requested their item to be continued. I went ahead and said yes to that. And I guess technically I have that duty, but we typically bring it to the board. I thought this was different because I've never experienced one of these appeals before, so I've kind of let that be granted at this point, and so that would mean that the adoption of the agenda tonight would be modified, and we would be moving action discussion item C, complaint concerning instructional materials appeal, move to December 7th, which is when our legal counsel could be here for that. So I beg you to also be okay with that, because if we're not, then the appellant was already told that we would. And so the only other option is to put it on tonight and do it at the very, very end of the meeting and kind of try to scramble to let him know that that's what we're doing. So, so when the motion time comes, I'm going to be making a motion to modify the adoption of the agenda with moving that action item off of it. And then we do have a walk-on tonight, but Mr. Jordan, you're probably going to talk on that one, right?
Right. We just have one walk-on tonight, out of county activity, both for CCS travel, CCS championships. So, and it's in your folder.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
Not about the walk-on, but about the appeal. When was this, did this information get delivered to us in an email? Because I did not see that. When did that happen that he was told he could move we could move the date to the 7th?
I sent it to him in an email today after I heard from legal counsel, and they said that they recommended it. So I forwarded it then to Mandy, but because she's out, I think there's been a backup of emails.
Okay. But
Coming
that was
out to
done,
the board.
it was done today.
It was done earlier today. Yeah.
Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
What else do we have agenda wise? Nothing? Okay. We'll go out for public comment on the agenda. Lewis, anyone raising their digital hand? Nobody. Is there anyone online? Just out of curiosity. One person? Okay, great.
Could I make one just also public comment about that same item?
Yeah.
Because just for if there is board discussion, I know it's kind of on the agenda thing, is just, my main concern is just the kind of I'd say for the student, that delaying it potentially puts them at more harm. But if I know that was also the request of the appellant, right? So I guess I agree. I think it is best based on the information received to delay it, but I just worry that the student may suffer with a later date, if that makes sense.
We can't really discuss it further right now, but if you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to vote in favor of it.
No, like I said, I just wanted to make a comment on it because it was something we were.
I think that was taken into account by legal's recommendation, but I can't know for sure. And Josh, if you wanted or are able to comment, feel free.
I'm not really able to comment on,
Kind of outside
the modification of the agenda.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I feel like there's something else on the agenda, but we did the walk-on. We did the appellant's request. Nobody else has anything. We went out to public comment. Okay. So I'm gonna make a motion to adopt the agenda while continuing action item C, complaint concerning instructional materials appeal. And we're aiming for that to be on December 7th.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made by President Carolyn Swanson, seconded by Clerk McNary. Can we get a majority vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we've got a majority of the board in favor, so the motion passes. We have one dissenting vote, and that was trustee Otmar dissenting on approving the agenda and moving that forward. Okay, so with that, we have now adopted the agenda. I'm going to list off the closed session items. Identify closed session topics. Number 1, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with PGTA for the 23-24 school year. Number 2, negotiations, collective bargaining session, planning and preparation with CSEA for the 23-24 school year. Number 3, public employee discipline dismissal release complaint, 1 case. Number 4, conference with labor negotiators, agency negotiators, board president, clerk, and legal counsel. And that is it. So we've got 4 for closed session. We're going to go out for public comment on closed session topics. Lewis, let me know if you see anybody. Be right there. Nobody online. I don't see any members of the public here, although staff members are welcome to comment as members of the public, but I don't see anyone moving up to the podium at this time. So with that, we're going to close out public comment on closed session topics, and we're going to adjourn to closed session. Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I see some beautiful faces here tonight. I'm going to report action in closed session. I don't need my gavel right now. We had 4 items on our closed session agenda. Number 1, negotiations related to collective bargaining session planning and preparation with PGTA for the 23-24 school year. No information was given on that item. Number 2, negotiations related to collective bargaining session planning and preparation with CSEA for the 23-24 school year. Also, no information given. Number 3, public employee discipline / dismissal / release / complaint, 1 case. Information was given on that item. Number 4, conference with labor negotiators, agency negotiators, board president, clerk, and legal counsel. No information was given. With that, Mr. Jordan, would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Of the United States of America.
Thank you so much. So this is the portion of the meeting where we list off our written communications as board members. I'll go first. I have a short list tonight. This is as of today, November 2nd, as of about 11 a.m.-ish. So if you sent something in after that, it'll be on my next report. I had an invitation to celebrate LGBTQ History Month and Filipino American History Month. An email about agenda item 8C for the October 26th meeting. A thank you from a staff member for continuing the meeting on the 26th. 2 emails related to a continuance of an agenda item on November 2nd's agenda. 1 question regarding superintendent search process, and 1 email that was an invitation from CSBA for me to join their small school district advisory work group. So with that, I'm just going to go around this way. Trustee Hazen, what do you have?
I don't have any updates. Thank you beyond what you sent.
Okay. Trustee Otmar.
Nothing additional.
Clerk McNary.
I also received an additional email from NCBI regarding a training I will be attending this weekend.
Thank you. Trustee Brian.
Nothing additional. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to make a copy and get that to Mandy to add to the minutes for a future meeting. And with that, next up is board member comments. So for that, I'll just start with Brian and kind of work our way this way. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't really have anything this week, so.
Oh, okay. Understood. Clerk McNary?
Well, as he most likely transitions back to maybe one job, I wanted to say thank you to you for being willing to serve in two roles. I think I've said it to you before that I think it really demonstrates your character and your commitment to our district. And I want you to know that I really respect and appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to the work we will continue to do. And I also wanted to say thank you to staff for stepping in during this time of transition to fill in all those gaps and really work together so that we could be here today. So thanks.
Thank you. Great comment. I totally agree. Trustee Otmar?
I also agree with that wholeheartedly. Thank you very much for everything and everything you've done and how much heart you've put into the work you've been doing. It shows every day that you show up. It shows. So we appreciate you very much. And beyond that, no other comment from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hazen?
Sadly, Clerk McNary said it better than I could have. So, but I will say another good thank you to everyone involved for keeping our district afloat. It's been a bustling time, and I also am very excited for what's to come.
Mhm. Yes, thank you so much. Josh, I said it to you many times throughout the past couple months, but I'm just not really sure when you sleep because the amount of work that you're generating, the work product that you're generating is the type of thing that requires so much time, almost like creating like a term paper, at every week it felt like. And then shouldering the superintendent's job as well as assistant superintendent to business and finance. So I have 100% just feelings of thankfulness for that. I hope you're proud of it. I think you did an incredible job. Anyone who asks me, I say the exact same thing. I think it's pretty amazing. And we've got help on the way. So hopefully that is good. But but seriously, thank you so much. Moving on to our interim superintendent report.
Well, I don't have a formal report tonight for the board. I would like to echo what was just described as it relates to staff admin support over the past 5 months. I could absolutely not have done this job in both roles without the support of everyone that sits at that back table every single board meeting. We're on the phone and text messaging at all hours, and they've really become a family to me, every single person sitting back there, and those that aren't here tonight as well. I'm not going to single anyone out, but there's a lot of time that goes into what's done at this school district to, have a very positive impact on children, promote the growth of our district, the growth of the educational programs that we offer. And, the teachers are, these are the best teachers I've ever seen. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm so happy that I'm a product of this district. I'm happy my child goes to this school district. And the admin team that supports our teachers and supports our classified staff is dedicated. And thank you all for everything you've done. Thanks to the trustees for your support over the past 5 months. It has not been easy. My wife would love to have me back, and I'm a little tired tonight, so I might fall asleep here at the dais. Aside from that, we have the shoe game this weekend.
Yes.
And I'm sure Dr. Hagquist, maybe he has something to say about that. The Shine Our Shoes event dance is Friday night. Breaker Club's putting that on. Hope to see you all there. I think Laura Lee and I are going to do the kid and play we just decided before the board meeting. So come and see that in person. And then the shoe games on Saturday night. Go Breakers.
I'm glad you brought up the shoe game. It's crucial. And I think the more of us that go, the better. Like, just imagine filling that stadium. Not that it's not already full, but it's cool for, I think it's cool for people to see our face as a board and staff members to go too. So very, very cool. We're moving right along. It's only 6:38 and we're already on to individuals desiring to address the board. So I'm just going to read a little disclaimer that sets the expectation for our public comment portion of our meeting. Public comment on any item of interest to the public that is within the board's jurisdiction will be heard. The board will also take public comment on each specific action item prior to board action on that item. Any individual wishing to comment on a specific item on the current agenda are kindly asked to wait until that item is being discussed. The board will allow a reasonable amount of time for public comment on each agenda item not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker and no more than 20 minutes per agenda item pursuant to Board Policy 9323. Speakers will be called sequentially until there is no speaker coming forward on the agenda item or the amount of time allocated for the item has elapsed, whichever comes first. This meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the board conducted in public. Please note that the Brown Act unfortunately limits the board's ability to respond to public comment. The board may choose to direct items to the administration for action or place an item on a future agenda. So tonight we're going to start with PGUSD staff comments on non-agenda items. And of course, if you're at home or your office watching us digitally, please raise your digital hand, and we will alternate between folks who are digital zooming in and between folks who are here in person. So let's give a moment for folks to raise their hand or make their way to the podium.
Good evening, Larry Hagquist, Pacific Grove High School Vice Principal. Just here to share out some information about our school. We've had a really busy week. We had dress up days all week. We closed campus all week, started off with pajama day, and then we had Halloween. Today we had the shoe game. The halls were decorated by the students. And in anticipation of the shoe game, that's kind of a tradition at our school. So the kids were there early in the morning, decorating the halls, having a contest. And Laura Lee, I believe the freshman hall won. So we're really excited about that young class.
Oh,
So they won the decorations. Shoe game is on Saturday, and the gates are going to open at 4:30. JV game starts at 5, varsity game starts at 7:30. We're going to be using 2 gates for that game. So we're going to use the Congress gate and the Sunset gate. So we've got plenty of staff there ready for the big crowds, hopefully. And I don't know if you all know the EA Beat Carmel cheer, but that's going to be heard loudly tomorrow at our rally. So we are on a rally schedule tomorrow for the shoe rally. Mr. Garcia is not here. He hasn't been here for the last few days. So he is in Sacramento for the AXA Leadership Summit representing Region 10. So he will be back in time for the shoe game on Saturday. And looking forward to a 4-day week next week. So we're going to have an altered schedule on Monday where we're going to go CB, and then Friday off for Veterans Day. Also to report out, we've got some great news about our sports making CCS. We've got a water polo game on Saturday against Santa Cruz up in Aptos, and they're playing at 11 a.m. The water polo team first round CCS. Our girls volleyball team played on Halloween, and they played up in the Bay Area in the first round CCS. Just a lot of good stuff happening at the high school.
wow. So many good things. Thank you so much. And Lewis, okay, great. I was going to ask if anyone has their hand up. So please, Miss Gona.
Right. Good evening, Laura Gona from the high school. I just wanted to reiterate what the board said. It's been a pleasure working with you as interim superintendent. I think it's Josh is somebody that he acts very quickly. We almost didn't have our senior picnic this year because of some technicalities. And when I mentioned it to him, he was taking care of it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday. And the next morning I had a text from him about 6:30 that he had solved our problem. So he saved the senior picnic this year. I want to welcome our new superintendent. You have a really wonderful asset here, and as the board has mentioned, so thank you for being a pleasure to work with. I don't know about my dance moves though, so don't be coming just for that. Our students representatives were unable to make it tonight because they were at the school at 5:30 this morning decorating those halls. So I gave them the night off. I told, well, Dario's practicing for football right now. JC is on the dance team. So they're very busy this week. And so I said, go ahead and head on home when you're done with your stuff today. But we definitely want to invite all of you to come to the rally tomorrow. And definitely come to the game on Saturday. It's always a good time, and help support the Breaker Club by bringing all your money and getting your snack bar snacks. They make great food. Thank you.
That's true.
Oh. Can I ask, sorry, what time is the rally tomorrow?
11:19.
Thank you.
11:19 schools. Okay. 11:19 on Friday. Is it okay if the board wanted to come to that? Josh Jordan, I'll ask you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So 11:19 at the high school. Is it at the stadium or
The big
in
gym.
the gym? Okay. Thank you so much. Hi, Mr. Keller.
Hi, good evening. Sean Keller, principal at Robert Down. A lot of memories coming back with Shoe Week. Wow. Former football coach and former activities director. I do not miss those mornings for hall decorations. Miss the kids though. I just wanted to inform the board tomorrow is Aloha Day in memoriam for Jen Hinton. Our field is named after Jen Hinton, a longtime PE teacher at Robert Down. So have your aloha spirit tomorrow. And next week we have our Veterans Day Assembly. That'll be at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 8th. And the board is welcome to come to that. And then we will have a Diwali celebration activity on the 9th. And then we will have our second year of celebrating the Ruby Bridge Walk to School Day. And that will be Tuesday, November 14th. And we're going to try something a little different this year. We're going to have 3 locations where kids can actually walk to school. It's going to be George Washington's Park, Caledonia, and I just talked to Craig Bell, and he's going to let us use the back parking lot of First Awakening. So we're going to have 3 locations and have the kids actually walk to school. So hopefully we'll all be safe, and we'll have a day of dialogue there on campus as well for Ruby Bridges Day. So just wanted to let you know about those activities at Robert Down.
Thank you so much. And just a general note about activities on schools. We love hearing about them. And if you ever want to invite the board, sometimes we get emails from different sites to say like, hey, I'm speaking for the whole board right now, so disagree if you wish, but like, we really appreciate those and we'll do everything we can to come. So thank you for saying them at meetings. It really does make a difference. And then if there's anything that comes to your mind after a meeting that you want to send us about as well, like we want to hear it. So
Thank you.
and that goes for all the sites, not just Sean Keller. Just popped in my head after Sean was speaking.
Good evening. Just wanted to start off by saying, Josh, thank you so much for the continued support. We have had every problem solved and heard by you that we brought forward, and I so appreciate it. And I'm so glad we get to continue working together in your associate soup role. But this week has been super busy at Forest Grove again. Parent-teacher conferences have been underway. Last week, PTA hosted Trunk or Treat. We had a ton of students there, which was fabulous. And today we did a Kona Ice fundraiser with them. The line came almost all the way down the parking lot to our gate. We had a fantastic Halloween parade on Tuesday that was really well attended. It was so cute to see the kids' creativity. But we're getting back to academics next week a bit more. And our readathon starts on Monday and it will go for 2 weeks. So kids will be taking pledges online. PTA sent out all of the information on that today. And then also Thursday at 8 a.m. we'll be hosting a brunch breakfast at that hour. A breakfast for veterans that will consist of something like bagels, but we are reaching out to all of our veterans or family members of veterans and getting names and ranks and all of that. So if you're able to, please feel free to join us. But thank you all.
Thank you. Great update. Anyone else?
President Carolyn, you're making such great progress on time too. Now, I hope we're not setting you back.
Really speedy. No, it's wonderful. Go ahead.
Good evening, board members. I am Buck Rogeman, the Director of Curriculum and Special Projects, and I also serve as the lead negotiator for the district in our negotiations with the Pacific Grove Teachers Association. And what I really wanted to do was update the board and update the public on the approach that we're taking to negotiations this year, which we think is going to be more efficient and is going to help us work even better together. What we're trying to do is to settle on contractual language items before the first of the year, so that after the December tax receipts come in and we have a little bit more of a clear picture about the finances, then we can focus on that for the second part of the year. And along those lines, I just wanted to express my gratitude to Mary Quindamil, who came in yesterday toward the end of the workday and spent 2.5 hours with me going through the evaluation section of the contract. That's one of the articles that we've opened this year, and we're just trying to clean up some of the sloppy language that at times exists within a contract. There's no better way to put it than that. So we're looking to try to, improve things there. And then I would be remiss if I didn't also, extend my thanks and gratitude to Josh for the job that he did as interim superintendent. I think he did a great job of setting the table for our superintendent to be. And I think that there's a great team in place to kind of help with that transition. And I just want our folks out there that are listening to the meeting to know that this is going to go very, very smoothly. And we are really excited to see where the district is going to go. Thank you.
Agreed. Any other PGUSD staff members wishing to make a comment on non-agenda items? Lewis is letting me know that we don't have anyone raising their hand online right now. We do have about 26 participants online, which is wonderful. Any members? Barbara, hi, I didn't even notice you were there. Hi. Not to put anyone on the spot, but would anyone else like to go up to the podium and speak at this time? No? Okay, so with that, we're going to close out staff comments and we're going to move on to community member comments. So that means pretty much anyone who would like to speak at this time, you're absolutely welcome to raise your digital hand or make your way up to the podium. I don't know how many members of the public we have here, but I also want to make a note that even if you're a staff member, if you want to make a comment as a member of the public, you definitely qualify. You're definitely a member of the public as well. So please, I'm really fishing for public comments right now and hoping somebody. Okay. So Lewis is letting me know that no one has their digital hand up at this time, and I do not see anyone making their way up to the podium either. So we'll close out community member comments at this time. And we're going to move on to our consent agenda, which is actually pretty short. It doesn't mean that we might not have items pulled, but it's really a succinct consent item. Consent agenda only goes to A through F. Sometimes we have ones that go A through Z and then A through Z again, and we have like double A's. So we're doing a very succinct consent agenda tonight. So board, I'll go around and see if anyone has any comments on that. Trustee Hayes, I'm going to start with, and not forget you one time I'm not going to forget you at all tonight.
Appreciate that.
Yes.
And no worries. No comments on consent right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any either. Clerk McNary.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, Trustee Otmar.
Nothing to pull and no comments.
Okay, Trustee Brian Swanson.
Nothing to pull. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So board members do not have anything to pull. Every single item on the agenda, we go out for public comment. So we're back again looking for digital hands that are up online, or anyone in the audience who would like to make their way up to the podium is welcome to make public comment on our consent agenda. If anyone is following along, it's on our agenda pages 3 and goes on to page 4. I'll just give a moment. Okay, we don't have anyone making a move that they would like to make public comment at this time, which is fine. And so with that, board, can we get a motion to approve consent agenda, please?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Great. Motion made by Clerk McNary, seconded by Dr. Hazen. Mr. Jorn, will you do majority vote?
Majority vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the action discussion portion of our agenda. First of all, action discussion item A is a verbal summary of the financial terms of superintendent employment agreement. One moment, I will grab it. It is my duty to read that out loud.
President Carolyn, can I just do a point of order? I think we had a walk-on action discussion item, and I'm not sure if we plugged it in where we wanted it on the agenda. So just
We did not plug that
maybe
in.
that before we get moving on other action items, or maybe we
Yes.
just discuss it before we get moving.
No, I think that's a fabulous idea because it is an item that typically would be on consent.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we don't already have out of county on here, right? Okay, yeah. So Mr. Jordan, do you mind
Sure.
adding that item?
Yeah, so would you like to place it before A?
Yes.
Okay,
So we'll call it walk on out of county.
Out of county
overnight
activities.
Yep. And this is an item that actually is under Mr. Jordan's name. So board, if you have, unless Mr. Jordan, did you want to contribute any information to it?
no, I suggest that we call it our action item E. We'll place it before A and no comment. One of them is a ratification for the CCS trip that was made this past week, as mentioned by Dr. Hagquist, and the other is for out of county activities for this weekend. Any questions?
Okay, and you want to call it action item E, just essentially extending the action item list, but placing it logistically after consent, right?
Correct.
Okay. So board, we'll go out and see, does any board member have any questions or comments on this item? Okay, I'm seeing everyone shake their head no. We are going to go out for public comment on this item. So Louis, if you'll let me know if anyone has their hand raised, we'll just give it a second. Okay, we don't seem to have anyone online or in person making their way up for public comment on this item. So because it is its own individual item, we will need a motion and a second to pass it. Can I get a motion, please?
Also move.
I'll second.
Great. Trustee Brian Swanson makes the motion and Clerk McNary seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Clerk McNary, for catching that. Okay, so now moving on to action discussion item A, which is verbal summary of the financial terms of the superintendent's employment agreement. And I wonder, let me read this here. This script must be read in open session by board president before the contract is voted on. I'm going to read it and then we're going to do any board discussion or public comment. Okay, so first I will read this. Summary of financial terms of superintendent's employment agreement. The district will consider approving an employment agreement for Dr. Linda Adamson to serve as the superintendent of the school district for the remainder of the 23-24 school year and continue through June 30th, 2026. The agreement for the superintendent will commence on November 3rd, 2023 and terminate on June 30, 2026. A summary of the financial terms are as follows. The term of Dr. Adamson's employment as a superintendent will be November 3rd, 2023 to June 30th, 2026. The base salary of the superintendent will be $255,000 based upon a 225-day work year, both prorated for the 23-24 school year. The superintendent will be eligible to participate in the health insurance benefits and life insurance plan that are provided to other certificated management employees of the district. The superintendent will be provided with a district-issued cell phone and laptop computer and/or tablet for her use to conduct district business. The district will pay the cost of the superintendent's membership dues in the Association of California School Administrators, the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development, and California Association of Latino School Administrators. The superintendent may recommend to the board her participation in other professional organizations. The district will pay up to $7,500 per year for a mentor/coach for the superintendent in the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. The board has the right to terminate the contract without cause. If the board elects to do so, it will pay to the superintendent an amount equal to 12 months' salary or the remainder of the term of the contract, whichever is less than one lump sum within 30 days for the termination of the contract. That concludes the summary of the financial terms of the contract we are considering for the superintendent. A complete copy may be reviewed on the district's website as an attachment to this agenda item. Also, a copy is available from the district office upon request. Okay. This is actually directing me that after the verbal summary is read, I should move to the next item, which I will do in a moment, but first we're going to allow for public comment on this item. Okay, great. Mr. Jorn, do you know if we should allow for board discussion on this item?
I believe we only have board discussion on the approval of the contract itself.
On item B?
Yep.
Okay, so board, I'm going to skip over the board discussion portion for item A. But public comment is very important on this item. So if we have anyone online who would like to raise their digital hand or anyone here in person, please do. We'll give it a couple of seconds so that everyone has a moment to do that, so that everyone feels comfortable that they have enough time to do that. Lewis, I don't see anyone either. Okay, thank you. And I don't see anyone here in person making their way up to the podium at this time. So at this time, I will close public comment on this action discussion item. I have a quick point of order for Mr. Jorn. On the agenda on page 4, it is an action item, but it doesn't have a vote on it. Is that okay with you?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And I think that's also why this is directing me to go to the next item. They're kind of like sister items, essentially. Okay. So now we are on the agenda item regarding the approval of the employment agreement with the superintendent. Is there any board comment? Okay, I'm seeing none. I will come back to you after public comment, however. Is there any public comment on this? Okay, Lewis is letting me know there's no one online with their digital hand up. I don't see anyone here making their way up to the podium. So board, I'm going to come back. Is there any board comment on this item, which is considering the approval of the employment agreement with Dr. Linda Adamson to serve as the district superintendent? By the way, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the superintendent's employment agreement, and that is part of the agenda. No one has anything to add verbally? Okay. Okay, so with that, do we have a motion to approve on recommendation the employment agreement with Dr. Linda Adamson?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay, motion made by Clerk McNary, seconded by Carolyn Swanson.
I believe it's a roll call vote.
Mm,
Is it?
Well, on the agenda, it appears to be a majority vote, but if we want to be safe, maybe we do
be
roll
safe.
call.
Yeah, roll call vote. Okay. I believe it's roll
Good
call.
call.
Yeah. President Carolyn Swanson,
Aye.
Dr. Hazen,
Aye.
Trustee Otmar.
Aye.
Clerk McNary,
Aye.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Dr. Adamson, Mr. Dr. Adamson, for being here. And with that, we actually have a little bit of a party built into our meeting tonight. So it's 7:02. We're going to take a little time for a party, otherwise known as a reception. We're going to take a short recess to congratulate Dr. Linda Adamson. We have refreshments here, so if anyone's listening at home wants to make their way over, it's a small town. Come on over. We're going to be partying for probably 20 minutes. So we'll get back at 7:25, so 22-minute party. Okay? Thank you all so much. Okay, now that I said it was gonna be 7:28, it's 7:27, so I think we need to wait until 7:28, so it'll just be a couple seconds. Good night. And thank you so much to Dr. Linda Adamson and her spouse, Mr. Gavin Adamson. They're gonna head out tonight. They had a long drive to get here, so thank you so much. Okay, we are officially back. We are officially back. So now we're on action discussion items continued. We're going to pick up with item C, which actually earlier in the meeting during the adoption of the agenda, we agreed to continue that item. And that was a simple scheduling item to ensure that the appellant and legal counsel could be here on a future date. So moving on to action discussion item D, which is board calendar, future meetings. And I always just defer to Mr. Jorn and Clerk McNary on this because you guys are so great with the calendar.
Yeah, we have, there's no changes since the last time we took action on the calendar, so
So nothing?
nothing.
Okay, this is like one of those meetings. Everything, stars are aligning. Okay, so board, I will go around to you quickly. Who's it? Okay, come on in. Okay. Okay, board, do you have anything whatsoever for board calendar future meetings? Okay, shaking heads, no.
Nothing that hasn't been discussed previously. Yep.
Okay, we'll go to public comment because we do that. So we'll take just a moment. Lewis, if you see anyone, let me know. Of course, anyone here in public is always welcome to come up to the podium and let us know anything that they would like to on these items. So this is again, board calendar, future meetings item. And it doesn't appear that we have anyone raising their digital hand or coming up in person to the podium. So with that, I'll close out public comment. And since we didn't make any changes to the calendar, we also don't need to vote on it. So we're going to move right along to information discussion item A, which is I'm really excited about. It's Nutrition Services Program Update by Director Silveria. Director Robert, you can let me know when you get up here how the proper way to pronounce your last name is, because I would like to do that properly.
Thank you, sir. Alrighty, good evening. My name is Robert Silveira. I don't add the emphatic Portuguese pronunciation on it, so we keep it straight.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to be able to provide a program update for you guys tonight, so we'll just go right into it, and we're already multiple slides ahead. Okay. So during the 22-23 school year, California became the first state to implement a permanent universal meals program statewide. This bill grants access to free breakfast and lunch at all TK through 12 schools for all students. This being a permanent funding plan has given us the great opportunity to expand our program. So the 2 years that I chose here are chosen because it shows a clear difference of our food service operation. In 2018 and 2019 was the last year that we were full paid, free, and reduced to where students had to pay each day for their breakfast and lunches. And 23-24 is the year we're in now, to where all kids are eating for free. So those are the two in this snapshot of the large difference of the amount of meals that we're serving on a day-to-day basis. And lastly, I wanted to note that in addition to the high school is a breakfast session in the AM that will be responsible for roughly 20,000 more meals this year compared to last year. So to start with this graph, I did leave off 1920 and 2021 because those were very unique COVID offsite service years that I didn't feel showed our growth in totality. So that's the only reason they are left off of this graph. And the enrollment information is on here to get a better picture of the participation percentages of our students, because the meal counts alone do need more context when the enrollment is on decline. For example, in 18-19, our participation rate was 17% of meals. And this year we are on pace for a 53% participation rate. All right, so on to the actual changes that we have made this year. This year we're transitioning to an offer versus serve operation model. USDA regulations say that a reimbursable meal must contain at least 3 of 5 components to be reimbursable. Those components are a grain, a meat or meat alternative, a fruit, vegetable, or milk. Previously, we were serving all 5 components on the plate and making it the students had to take it on their way out. So now what we're doing is serving 3 of the 5 items and offering the rest of the items after the line. This will have a large and immediate impact on fruit, vegetable, and milk waste, as the students can now pick if they want an item instead of automatically being served it. Our current project is to add a complete fruit and vegetable salad bar to each elementary service line, which should further limit that food waste, while also providing a very large increase in the variety of fruits and vegetables that we're offering on a daily basis. The high school and middle school already have operational salad bars that we added in about 2 months ago now, and they've been great additions that the students have been excited for. Community high school. So community high school in previous years for lunch would microwave frozen wrapped entrees that we would provide along with the fruit, vegetable, and milk. So one of the first things we did this year was work with Luciana to where they actually get a choice of what they want from the high school menu so that it's fresh and hot and delivered to them each day. Our elementary menu. We have expanded this year from 1 daily entree option to 2, giving them more options for the students and also allowing us the opportunity to try new menu items each month. Previously, there would be a vegetarian checkbox that the teachers would have to fill in when they're doing their daily rosters that they now no longer need to, as each day there is an automatic vegetarian option that is provided. We also have gluten-free alternatives that the staff works with the office to have ready by lunchtime. And with just these changes in the past month, there's been a 15% increase in meal participation across both elementaries, which means that we're on the right track. Across all of our schools, we are continuing our progress in getting prepackaged lunch items completely out of our program. And I feel that this is something we should easily be able to accomplish this year, as there is very few that we're actually still doing that are coming pre-made and wrapped. So with that comes an increase in scratch cooking. School cafeteria styles typically break down into 3 segments: individually wrapped, fast scratch, and full scratch cooking. An example of these 3 versions is simplified as a cheeseburger. So with the individually wrapped, it comes fully processed with the meat and bun fully cooked, assembled, wrapped in plastic, shipped to us, heated up, and then served in plastic. Excuse me, not to us, to a school district, and then served in plastic. Fast scratch is procuring the whole grain bun and pre-cooked patty from processors that utilize our USDA commodity dollars, all which meet our very tight nutritional regulations, then cooked to temp on site and assembled on the day and served. Full scratch is more of making your own dough, proofing, baking, bringing in the raw meats, cooking to temp, and then serving. With the individually wrapped pre-made option, you can get almost everything on our current menu in that form. And it is a very widely used product amongst districts. The full scratch is a very rare type of program that I have not really ever seen actually operational before. The labor, equipment, time, and space alone is very hard to accomplish. We are restricted in multiple ways for what we are able to do, but our progression, at least towards a modified version of that, is and should be for all K-12s, should be a goal to get to. And lastly, the fast scratch is where we fall in a large majority of our menu and is the most common service in K-12. As a few examples, we are now making our own quesadillas, grilled cheese, tacos, rice dishes, pasta dishes, and all of our salads and sandwiches, and that will continue to expand. With the individually wrapped things, and I've seen a lot throughout the districts that I've been with, you can actually get pre-made sandwiches. Like everything can be pre-made and brought in. And luckily, we do not have any of those items anymore. Okay. Operational changes. Lastly, I want to share our operational changes. Some of these are not as much public facing as the previous items, but they're some of the biggest wins that I feel that we have gotten in these first 3 months. The meal counting. This is the lunch cards that the K-5 students are using at our point of sales. This year, we have initiated a new system that streamlines processes across both schools. The teachers no longer need to spend class time organizing, distributing, managing all the cards within their class time during instructional minutes. All the cards stay with us and are organized in our carts that are organized by teacher, so that the student knows exactly every day when they come in, they know where even what number their card is going to be in to where they come in, and then we pop it back in there at the end of the day. Ordering processes. The ordering process changes are more internal with my team that no one else can really see, but it is empower the staff to be able to make more decisions regarding the products that they need to be successful. And this helps our efficiency as well as our overall team communication. We communicate a lot, and I like to give them it's their kitchens and have their say in what's going on. This year, we have also strategized to consolidate our vendors, as well as worked with our main distributor to begin receiving shipments at every school site. So previously, we would get all of our site orders delivered to just the high school. So all four schools worth of product just to the high school. Linda, who is my right hand that I'm very proud to have and very thankful for her. She would weekly would break apart and organize $6,000 to $7,000 worth of product every week to be sent out to the other sites. The MOT staff would then load and deliver all that again to each site, and they would spend at least 2 days a week on that. So with the new setup, we've been able to redirect approximately 570 hours back to the MOT and food service teams. All right. Almost there. Before I have our online program to demo, but before I do that, I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge all of our staff in the food service that have dealt with a large amount of changes in a very short amount of time. I was trying not to do too many changes 3 months ago when we met, but we did them anyways. But they've done very well, and their excitement in improving has been great, and I truly feel they are excited to continue this journey, and I thank them for all their work with that. As our program grows, we are growing with it. Being new myself and from working with several districts in the area, I can say that this program has accelerated at an extremely fast pace due to the Universal Meals Program. Most districts have a long time to get used to this abundance of meals, and we were shot to a very high amount. So far this year, we have already increased labor by over 30% to accommodate these changes that I've mentioned today. And my goal is to add a satellite service area at the middle school and high schools to take the pressure off the main lines and speed up service as well. And that will increase the labor and resource requirements. We're also going to be taking a deeper dive into compostable products at all sites, progressing on the environmental side. As was discussed in last week's budget revisions, Fund 13 has the room to absorb a lot of the progress that we have made and increase our dollar per student spending moving forward in innovative ways that our district will be proud to have. Thanks. Okay, so now I'm going to back out. And this is this is our web page that our main food service web page here that we made some modifications to. And on the side, we go to menus. These bigger texts I call like fridge versions that you can print and kind of know what's going on. But at the very top is our online menu. So this is programmed with our entire menu, breakfast and lunch for all 4 sites. So we can change schools, we can change what month we're in, and then from breakfast to lunch. And what this does is be able to go to, if you're a nurse that needs carb counts for your diabetic students, it has all the information here, total carbohydrates. If there are dietary restrictions, every single one of these will have flags of what the potential allergens are. And all this is backed up with spec sheets on our website as well. And you can even go into the filters and pick your allergen, let's say egg, for example. And then you back out and you'll notice that this is crossed off. So it is actually eliminating the products that contain the allergen risk there. So you know exactly what you're doing. And this is a living document getting programmed each month that has all of our menu on it, easily accessible. Alrighty, and that's it. Any questions from the trustees?
Thank you so much, Director Silvera.
Thank you.
We typically don't clap for items, but I will say, because I think this is your first time presenting to the board,
Yes, ma'am.
I think we should clap if we feel it's appropriate.
Thank you.
And so we'll go around for board comments and then out to public comment, back to board comments, and ta-da. So Clerk McNary, I'll start with you.
Wow, I'm so excited about nutrition in our district right now. There is so much going on. And thank you to you and your, it sounds like, incredible team who've been making changes, even if you weren't expecting to make changes. Thank you for sharing the data, like you're seeing the increase in 15% with offering more options. Thank you for thinking kind of out of the box about different ways to get food to students, because meals have evolved. And as a parent, like having those vegetarian options or options that fit a student's particular needs is like so invaluable. As a parent of a middle schooler, I can tell you right on with the meal options. And I'm so excited to hear you say you're going to have the satellite locations for service, because that's the one thing I have heard from parents is like lines are long sometimes because so many kids are accessing and wanting salad bar if they don't want whatever the options are for the day. And it's wonderful. So right on. Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the middle school here is kind of unprecedented for me, the amount of meals, and
Oh.
because I think numbers is
Yeah.
a lot of my deal as well. For percentages of participation, etc. So the middle school goes through a lot of meals,
Okay.
a lot of meals, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mr.
Thank
Roach
you.
is, I think he's part of the reason why so many are going through there as well.
Cool.
So I appreciate him for that.
Thank you.
Trustee Otmar?
Oh, I'm excited. This is so cool. Thank you so much. Thank you for getting rid of packaged meals. The allergy piece of this is awesome. And I'm just so happy that we're starting with the fast scratch, and that you're talking about, the ultimate goal would be a true from scratch kitchen. That is, I know that's probably far out, but I mean, just to have that in your vision is beyond awesome. And I'm a firm believer that you are what you eat, not this week with all the candy, but I mean, but truly, I mean, that's brain power for our kids, and that it's not coming in a package is really, really cool. I do have a question about, will there still be, I know now there are no nuts in the kitchen. Will that still be the case?
Yes, and at this point, most of the industry knows that, and I haven't seen very few products. They're very conscious of that as well from all of our manufacturers.
I would imagine so. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is very exciting.
And everything that
Yeah.
gets programmed, if I'm programming it into this website, I see all those spec sheets before it hits a menu or service day anyways. So it would trigger any red flag.
Okay. And then it rotates as a menu. Is it on a type of like a rotation, or is it pretty consistent, like, every month or third month or?
My normal operation is menu meetings that we go through with the staff, or what's hot, what's not, and stuff to change out. During the holiday months like this, we tend to keep it the same because we lose 2 weeks, so we don't want to adjust. So it will rotate, try to do 1 or 2 adjustments month to month, but a lot of things, you know, I kind of have to keep on the menu because I can't take burgers off the menu, for
I know.
example. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's a hit, you keep it. That's how it goes in our house too. So right on.
Thank
Thank you
Mhm.
very, very much.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Well, it's really impressive. There's so much of it. I mean, I love that you can, you know, choose your allergies. Well, not choose your allergies, you know what I mean? What allergy would you like today? But just the interactive element of it is really great. And I love, again, what you're doing as far as reducing waste and talking about composting and all that stuff. It sure has come a long way from when I went to school and it was hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. And yeah, it's really impressive. Thank you for putting the whole presentation together. It's been a while since we've had one, and it's nice to see what tremendous strides are being made. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Hazen.
This is such a welcome update and so many great options already on the menu. I've heard as well from kids at middle school and elementary. And again, this the idea of moving towards scratch, however far we can get, is beyond commendable. So again, thank you for what you're doing. Especially, you know, the point you brought up too that really resonated with me is I've heard these concerns about limited instructional minutes. So also thank you for removing that counting from that to allow teachers to teach and students to learn. I do have one question that hopefully not a too hard one, but knowing that you have 2 items on the menu, how do you deal, you know, when some are more popular than the others, particularly if you had like a vegetarian kid or something like that to make sure they get what they need?
So that goes to all sites. We have our production records that we keep note of. So if something runs out, and when I'm filling in, I'm doing this for them as well. I've been working some sites lately. So I'll note the time that the meal ran out. So, okay, we're 130 meals in out of the 220 we normally do. That's when this item ran out. Let's try 15 more next week. So it's a give and take every week to notice trends. And like at the middle school, there's they also have a large difference from day to day. They can go from 270 to 310. So it's like managing that right there is very hard with also limiting waste. So then we tend to make sure we have something there with cold items that can be rotated to the next day to limit waste. So that's why at the end, there's typically the salad and sandwiches that are left towards the end. The ultimate goal would be to have one option left over at the end of service of each thing so that every kid has every option. So it's working towards that and being vigilant of trends and production records.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It just sounds like you're taking a look at all of the different facets of food service because there's so much more than just the lunch in front of the student, and you're just trying to create less waste on all fronts. So it's to me, it sounds like a holistic approach, and you're also caring for your staff, which is incredible and really the only way to be successful. So thank you for that. Presentation wise, I want to give you some kudos. So I loved the length of your presentation. I loved that your PowerPoint slides had high level, succinct phrases, but then you were telling us information related to them. You weren't reading slides to us. I thought that was excellent. I love that you had examples for us, even the hamburger example. I mean, that's amazing. That helps us understand. Like I'll be like, hey, I know exactly what fast scratch versus full scratch is, and I'll think of your hamburger example. So I love the examples. I love your specific numbers. That's crucial. And I think for like all of us, right, going forward, because we have so many fresh faces, keeping data is what keeps the beautiful systems that everyone is starting to create alive and moving forward. So thank you. I love that you use technology to help keep kids safe with food allergies. I'm just kind of dazzled that you figured out a way to upload all of that information. Maybe it's easy. Don't tell me it's easy. I want to think it's hard. But that's incredible. Maybe Lewis helped. I don't know, like technology wise, I am dazzled by this. Oh, Matthew Binder. It's always the quiet one in the back. Okay. It's cool. You know, food service is like bringing it's crossing departments and kind of bringing folks together. So like seeing that is really neat as a board member. I just have a question, and it might be more for Mr. Jorn. But it's not really about it's about this item, but we used to be able to catch families who qualified for free and reduced lunch and be able to support them further in other wraparound services, because we knew that if they qualified for free and reduced lunch, they may qualify or may need some other help. But now that meals are free, my only worry is we're missing those folks. How do we capture them and support them? Do you guys have what's the
It's
state
outside
doing?
of Food. I can speak to it.
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
The reason I ask is during the COVID time when we were doing out of,
Yes.
drive-through and everything out, they added a lot of waivers for us to be able to do weekends, non-congregate. So we didn't have, right now you have to, the student has to eat their meal on campus. Those waivers allowed us to let them not eat on campus. So we were able to do weekends. We were able to do 3-week Christmas breaks. So those waivers are no longer active. So I don't know if that's what you meant by that.
Yeah, the way traditionally districts capture the data is through transportation registration. That's the format. That's the form that we use to capture that data. And then it also coincides with food services. And you're right. This is actually something that I spoke with Director Anderson about recently, to try to and Robert and I talked about this at the beginning as well. I mean, every child is served a meal, but we're still not able to gather that data, and that data does help us, as you mentioned, President Carolyn, with wraparound services. So we would like to expand that beyond the initial forms that our website offers. I mean, there's a lot of things we're looking to do electronically with our forward-facing, public-facing information. So this is definitely something we've been discussing, because you're right. Number one, transportation, folks subscribing to transportation home to school has dramatically dropped over the course of the last 4 years in this district. And that is where we gathered the information for those student populations. So John, Director Anderson and I are talking about that. He'll probably bring something forward with some options, and we'll work with Robert on that as well.
Do we still have families signing up for free reduced lunches, even though all of the meals are free?
I can take this.
Go ahead.
So yes, our funding here is unique of where we're getting our funding. So it's kind of how much emphasis do you want to put on making the families fill that meal application form out on
Fill it out.
Yeah. So right now it's kind of buried in our registration. So I'd like to bring it to the forefront, and it is the families know that they may not qualify for it. So it may seem annoying to have to go through, but if the district wants to take that stance of increasing our numbers, I think we need to make it a standalone in the registration packet, and just fill it out.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, Josh, if you're thinking about it, I feel comfortable.
It's also driving, it drives down right now. The lack of participation in filling out those forms drives down our unduplicated pupil population percentage as well, right? Which can be a good thing, but the counter to that is that we're not able to access certain title funds anymore, grant opportunities, because the low UPP, also wraparound services. As
and
you
maybe
mentioned.
it's not accurate.
I do not think it's accurate. Yes, that is one of the issues.
Okay, well, thank you for entertaining that question for me. I really appreciate it. We're going to go out for public comment right now. See if anybody wants to make a comment on nutrition services program update. Anyone online or here in person? Mr. Moss, we haven't heard from you at all tonight. Okay, excellent.
Beth Shamas. It's good to see this happening for sure. And the one thing I'm thinking about is, because when I was on the board, we really worked hard on changing up the nutrition. And we put in policies around that. So I would just suggest that you might want to check back on those policies just to see if what's happening now needs to be inserted in those in any way. I haven't looked at those policies for a long time, but I know they're there. And the other thing is, the timing of when kids eat. I know that at the elementary schools, kids want to go play. They don't really want to eat right away. So that was one of the reasons why food was just being tossed, I believe, so the kids could get out to the playground faster. So, that always made in my mind like, okay, maybe we should reverse the timing, go play first, then come eat. But anyway, that might be very complicated for a lot of other reasons, but it's just something to think about. Also at the high school, there was, the break, what you were serving at break time. Because that was when kids ate breakfast at 10 o'clock. That was conducive to, teenagers. That seemed right. So again, like, what do you serve then? If you're looking at nutrition, are you just going to serve your bagels, or could it be something more nutritious than that? So that would be my little input. Just look at the timing of when you're offering your different meals.
Thank you so much. The policy component, I do agree with that. And we've got a policy meeting coming up. I don't remember exactly what day it is. Just say it's Monday. Too late then. Too late to put it on that policy meeting, but maybe the next one. And that would be Robert, I guess. If you would, or Mr. Jordan, I don't want to direct Robert outside of your scope, but so what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, normally Mandy pulls items, but Robert and I can look at the policies. I mean, I'm a policy, AR kind of a nerd as well. So I think with a little more time on my hands moving forward, I think we can dive into this. But you're right, some of the BPs and more specifically probably the ARs need to be revisited.
Yeah, that would be really exciting. And even if we built something into them so that it was, dependent on funding, right? Because I think that's why for so many years, we weren't able to move to some of these luxurious options of fast scratch and otherwise. So, okay. So not this policy meeting, but you've got it tickled for the next round. Okay. Thank you. I think we've kept you for a very long time. So, I don't see any, I'm so sorry. We do have a hand up. I do get excited about public comment. So we do have a hand up online virtually.
Hi, this is Hethel Patel from Forest Grove. I'm assuming everybody can hear me.
Yes.
I just wanted to echo what Beth Shema said about possibly looking into the play first and then eat. I do know that there are school.
Mrs. Patel, you're kind of
shift and a
Mrs.
lot of
Patel.
planning because that's schedules. But it was definitely something that was positive.
Mrs. Patel, you kind of blipped out for a moment, so I just want to make sure we heard you. Did you say that you're in favor of looking at switching the timing for play first and then eating because you think there may be value in that?
Yes, I'm sorry. I guess I'm unstable in a part of a house, but yes, I've heard that in Southern California, they've done that. And it was a huge shift. And however, it was very beneficial because as I know with elementary, they really want to just go play. And so if we allowed the food first and then, play first, and then everybody had to sit down and eat, I think there would be definitely a huge benefit.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll let staff consider that, work on that. So thank you. Your input is really valuable. Anyone else with their hand up online? I don't see anyone else online. Okay. Anyone in person want to say anything about this item? I don't see anyone making their way. Okay, so with that,
Can I make
yes,
just one thanks to
please.
Stephanie Lip for initiating especially that online process. She got a lot of balls rolling before she left that I was able to pick up on. And she's been great with being available for me. So I want to make sure to mention her name today as well.
Thank you. I feel like we've had a legacy of excellent food service directors. We had Diane Hobson for like decades, worked her way up, and then we had Stephanie Lip, and now you're definitely continuing that legacy, in my opinion. So thank you so much, Director Silvera. So with that, we're gonna close out this item. There's no vote needed. Board, did you have any direction that you wanted to give?
I would like to, I'm interested in the discussion about recess and play first, followed by food. I personally noticed a lot of snacks come home. So if that is something that I can do here, I'd appreciate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
staff will explore that.
Yeah, do you need a majority of the board to talk about it, or, I mean, I'm fine with that. McNary's nodding her head, Brian's thumbs upping, Dr. Hazen?
Yeah, I mean, my only addition would be like to me, it's a bit of a site issue first. I want to hear from the sites to make sure that's something.
And that's what Josh will do, yeah.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
100% agreed that looking into it is a great idea.
Yeah, because I agree with you. Sitting up here on the dais doesn't feel appropriate for us to make that decision. It just feels appropriate for us to ask for the exploration of it, which I think is what Laura was doing.
Yeah, curiosity only, if it's something that is possible, yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Moving on, we've got our info item B, which is our 23-24 strategic plan implementation update by Josh Dorn.
Thank you, President Carolyn. So what we tried to do this past year was take a look, and I know that the board is working through, redevelopment of board goals and the strategic plan overall for the district. In the past, I believe there was kind of an annual look at board goals and strategic plan, but I'm not exactly certain how the implementation at the sites was done. I kind of took a model that helped develop at the County Office of Education when I was there for some time, and that's what's included in your packet today. So if you were to start, if you're online on page 58, and I'm going to pull up the info item cover sheet here in just a minute, but I want to talk through just a couple of things first. On page 58, we have the plan implementation for 23-24. The impetus for the plan implementation was associated with our overall strategic plan and the SMART goals that each site prepares for the district office to review annually. The report we're going to provide tonight to the trustees covers the school year 23-24. Some quick bulleted highlights associated with the plan this year. Overall, at every site, we're attempting to increase communication with our community to maintain transparency and accountability. I think that's of the utmost importance for our district as we are serving our community. Continue focus on valuing our diverse cultures and ensuring access for every single student in our district. Increased marketing and targeted recruitment strategies. I think this is very important for our district, and that's something that I'll cover under human resources. And of course, our continued commitment to increase safe, clean, and secure school sites. Those are just 4 of the bullets. The way that we looked at this year, and let me pull up the cover sheet so everyone can see it. So the way we took a look at it this year was we took, the board has 3 goals. And I asked each one of the sites to take a look at the goals, take a look at the strategies, and work on initiatives for the 23-24 year. So I'm going to gloss quickly through some of the highlights for each one of the sites, and then associated with each one of the initiatives the sites brought forward, there are metrics and key performance indicators associated. Again, that's in the backup document included in the board packet. So under board goal 1, which is student learning and achievement, overall educational program, every student is proficient or above grade level, engaged in his or her their learning and contributing positively to the community. At Forest Grove Elementary School, they have a plan to develop and implement a comprehensive and standards-based educational program focused on professional learning communities, or PLCs. Robert Down, under board goal 1, has an increased intervention programs, which will be used to identify students who are not proficient at grade level and require targeted instruction to meet their individual needs. At the middle school, increased collaboration, outreach, and communication among community stakeholders regarding mental health, community support opportunities, and celebrating diversity in our community. At the high school, student learning and achievement focused through an increase to the number of lessons with a focus of diversity, equity, and inclusion. At our adult education program, provide increased access and equity and the removal of barriers such as technology and transportation to the student population that the adult school serves. For student services, their focus this year is to develop a comprehensive data progress monitoring system for staff that will focus on the use of multiple measures of assessment data points to monitor student progress toward educational goals. Under curriculum and instruction, the focus under Board Goal 1, facilitate articulation across grade levels to provide student access to programs in the areas of math, report card committees, common grading practices, and cultural proficiency. Educational technology, they plan to focus on instructional technology hardware upgrades for remaining core and intervention elementary classrooms, both at the elementary schools, Robert Down and Forest Grove. And human resources will provide professional development and training to staff at all levels to support student learning and student engagement. And that is Board Goal 1. And at the end here, I will go ahead and open it up to any questions related to 1, 2, or 3 for the site staff, but I want to gloss through them quickly. Board Goal 2, which is credibility, confidence, and communication, accountability and integrity, student, family, and community partnerships, relationships, and dialogue contribute to the success of every student. That's the board goal. Some of the initiatives this year the sites are working on: Forest Grove, staff retention focus on opportunities for staff to bond during staff meetings, Sunshine Committee invitations to events, invitations to meet together, and attempt at after-school opportunities to meet off campus for team building. Robert Down Elementary School provide professional development plan that includes 3 to 4 opportunities to increase staff knowledge and the use of MTSS support practices. That's in collaboration with the County Office of Education. At the middle school, increased frequency and use of rubrics school-wide by mandating the professional development and quarterly implementation by teaching staff. Of course, continuing the use of UDL, Universal Design for Learning. At the high school and community school, under Board Goal 2, maintain credibility and communication through the use of the WASC accreditation process to increase the credibility, confidence, and integrity within the high school communities by fostering accountability. At the adult school, effective communications through increased messaging on social media platforms to promote the course offerings at the adult school. The plan to collaborate with MPAEC partners to advertise programs and increase certificated and classified classroom staff meetings in person and virtually. Student services under Board Goal 2 plans to conduct educational workshops and provide professional development staff on various topics for students with disabilities, foster youth, and students experiencing homelessness. Curriculum and instruction, increase professional development and the use of data from cultural proficiency, human relations needs assessment that was presented at a prior board meeting to identify professional development priorities related to cultural proficiency. Looking to increase frequency of local and state assessment data to identify professional development priorities related to math and ELA, and Buck will cover some of that this evening. Educational technology, expand the 23-24 district technology committee membership to include additional non-district employee parent representation. And human resources under Board Goal 2, provide an annual report of the department's accomplishments and activities. Finally, under Board Goal 3, which currently is credibility, confidence, and communication, fiscal solvency, program services, and budget alignment. Forest Grove Elementary School will focus on safe, clean, and secure school environment. The cultural proficiency teams will work to create professional development for staff to be shared at staff meetings in which challenges regarding diversifying curriculum and communication is the focus. At Robert Down, they'll focus on safe, clean, and secure environment. The school meets the goals established at the RHD Safe Schools Plan, update the plan, and add behavioral data and response professional development for staff and parents. At the middle school, Board Goal 3 will focus on social and emotional well-being. The site will focus new staff training opportunities on restorative practices, open parachute SCL curriculum, and advisory school climate committee. PGMS will focus on improving school connectedness by 10% as measured by the California Healthy Kids Survey compared to 22-23 scores. At the high school and community school, they will help to focus on fiscal solvency and budget with where the site will develop a master schedule that's balanced and fiscally responsible. Important to ensure efficiency use of resources. provide equal opportunities for students, and maintain financial stability within the school district. Adult education, address safety and security at the site. The adult school will fully train all staff on Big Five protocols, develop and further develop a partnership with local law enforcement and school district resource officer in order to provide for a safe environment. Student services focus on board goal 3. Ensure that the special education expenditures for staffing, materials, and supplies do not exceed the allocation for 23-24 school year, and focus on staffing for 24-25. Curriculum and instruction. The website will be employed, a new website will be employed to deliver timely, relevant, and accurate information with a complete redesign and focus on accessibility. I'd like to comment that that's something we're doing district-wide with the district website as well. EdTech, educational technology, will ensure that expenditures do not exceed the biannual Measure A allocated amount for a long-term technology budget associated with development process and educational technology. And finally, human resources will work directly with the business office to identify potential risks of insolvency or fiscal issues early and often. And one of the big things human resources plans to do this year as well, which is being pushed to January, is they're bringing their entire implementation plan back to the board as it relates to the school services review of human resources, and that will take place in January. So I know that was kind of a lot, and I read everything on the cover page. I apologize for that, but the document itself on page 58 is pretty lengthy. And at this point, because we would be jumping around if I went through that document, I will open it up for questions for the sites to respond. And I'll pull up the strategic plan for 23-24 so that the public can see it as well.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. I think you did the best with what you had, honestly, with that presentation. I don't know how you could have done it better. It's a lot. It's just a lot. And I think that also, you know, you came on taking on 2 of the, I just say like the 2 jobs at the top of the org chart for the district, trying to coordinate all those, and also trying to have a strategic plan for staff during summer planning. And so I don't know how you could have done much better, because you were working with a document that you had found that that was the most current, but was also last time kind of looked at in 21-22. So for me, I think you actually did a pretty great job. I know this is an update. This isn't an item for us to really say like, well, what about adding this or that goal? So will you give us some guidance? Because I do have a couple questions about some of the items, and or like maybe like a request for like, hey, can we actually have something that's more related to the goal on some of the items? So sure. Do you want to hear that tonight, or should we skip that? Because we also have a new superintendent who's coming, who's going to develop goals as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. And it's one of the thoughts I had before even coming into the meeting tonight. Right. So, you know, the entire plan was that this implementation plan is delivered to the board. Excuse me. My plan at least was to deliver to the board in the fall with kind of a wraparound presentation in the spring, tying up the end of the year that shows the board, you know, what initiatives were addressed, and then and more particularly looking at metrics and progress indicators, which I have now showing you. So if it's, I think that was important, but you're right, with Dr. Adamson coming on, things may shift and change, and there's a potential for that. So I don't know if we need to open up the door completely to this conversation tonight, but I will tell you this, that the sites put a great deal of time into working with me on this.
Okay.
It began with, as you mentioned, the summer planning discussion that we had, fall planning, and SMART goals associated with our administrators. And, this is being implemented as we speak right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the more important questions might come at the end of the year related to metrics and KPIs. How did we measure? What did we measure? What were the summative response at each one of the sites at the end of the year? So.
Okay, I really like that. And so just like, for example, so when we're looking at like, you know, any of the metrics that are listed in the document that starts on page 58, I'm just picking like a random one. Like this one is curriculum and instruction, actionable initiatives, and it says metrics. Report card committee, progress indicators, 100% implementation of the directives among all elementary teachers. So you're saying that at the end of the year, you'll actually have like a document that says, yes, we did this, and this is how we did it, and these are, you know, how it was implemented.
Right. Yeah. So we're targeting the KPI. So 100%. That's what our target is at the end of the year. We'll share with the board if it was only 90 or 60 or 75,
yes.
and we'll discuss why we didn't meet those KPIs.
Yeah, and then and then if we find value and we want to keep it, maybe next year we try to get to 92, right? Yeah, okay. Because this
Absolutely.
isn't like any failure that's possible. It's really establishing baseline, in my opinion. Is that?
That's correct. So, you know, I think that we took a pretty big leap from where we were in the past. And I will say this, doing this at the county office level, a lot of the initiatives. So again, we're tying to a goal and a strategy and then developing initiatives. A lot of them do carry some of them carry over
Mhm, that makes
fiscal
sense.
years or school years. Some of them, we may complete in the fall, right? Some of them are associated with testing, which is done 3 times throughout the year. So, I mean, it really does depend on the initiative.
Okay. I appreciate this. I'm trying to remember, is this the first time the board has seen this document? Or board, have we seen it? Did we see it before? The beginning of the year?
Technically, we saw it last board meeting as well, because we stated, but
Oh, because it was in the packet, we moved it forward. But before that, this is the first time we've seen it, right? And kind of read it.
This is new.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
new.
cool.
And the reason why I'm bringing it forward, unfortunately now, and we discussed this internally, but so the public knows, right, the plan is that this would be presented in August at the beginning of the school year, and it's in alignment with each one of the sites initiatives and goals tied back to each one of the sites SMART goals, which were developed in the prior school year in April and May. So that's the normal process. Then the board will receive updates throughout the year, probably one sometime in the middle of the year, letting the board know if we're on track with our KPIs and metrics, or if we're not, and if we need to pivot. And then at the end of the year, you have kind of a closure discussion related to this. So, but yes, this is the first time the board and the public has seen this document.
I really appreciate it. And I'm excited. I mean, even though it might seem like maybe I don't know, it might seem like I'm going on and on about this, but this is to me like one of the most important, having these goals and metrics for like broken down by site. I love that you have like 9 sites in here. You didn't just do the 4, what we typically think of as like the 4 main schools plus adult school plus community high. Like there's departments in here and everything. So I appreciate it very much. Let me see if there's any other notes I have before I move on. Oh, just really quickly, a shout out to Principal Arbrun. I attended the school site council meeting just as a member of the public. I try to attend one school site council meeting at every site per year and one PTA meeting at every site per year. And she even mentioned in the school site meeting, which was just the first one of the year, they were just getting their nuts and bolts going, that PLC meetings were a priority and that was going to be happening at her site. So you're definitely, not that I was thinking you weren't right, but you're definitely right. This is being implemented like all over the place and being talked about even in those moments. So thank you, Abby, for that. Okay, I'm done talking about this. So Trustee Brian Swanson.
I think this is the first time we've ever seen anything like this. It was really great for me to be able to look through it and, and maybe more easily explain to other people who don't know. It's like, so what do we do? What are we doing here? And how it all starts with what are our board goals? And we spend a lot of time working over that, and even down to just the nitty gritty, this word or that word. But then what happens to those board goals after we establish what they are, and to be able to look through this and say, okay, so this is going on, that's going on. And then how do we measure it? How do we measure the progress? And that is in here too. And knowing again that this is kind of this living document, and we will see more of it come back. But I think it's one of the most thorough things I've ever seen in my years on the board, when we can actually look and see from kind of start to finish what is happening. And so I appreciate you putting it together. It's great. I'm going to go through it again and again because there's so much to digest too, but it's nice to see that there's all this stuff that we can take a look at and all the work that's getting done in the district. So I love it.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm excited for this trend of bringing goals forward, having the metrics there, getting updates on them. It sounds basic, but it's actually pretty hard, and we don't see it as often as I like, and this is great. So, Trustee Hazen.
Completely agree. I love where this is going. I love the data. I love the holistic nature of it. I am interested with those roughness around the edges items, like the ones that go between, right? So like, what about site connectivity? You know, if you're dealing with our folks in elementary school using the same technological platforms as those in middle school, like, and again, this is like saying you did an amazing amount of work, please do more. So I'm not trying to say that, just trying to say, how do we connect them to make sure? The other thing, and I say this as somebody who absolutely loves data, but the one thing is I do want to make sure we still have that shoot for the moon option of like, where are we trying to go? If that makes sense. So some of those shoot for the moon options may not be measurable if we're saying we really want to make sure, you know, that we are supporting every kid emotionally. That may not always have a data number, but I guess I just want to make sure those are not lost in the data, if that makes sense. And I say that as a data scientist, someone that loves data. So again, cannot thank you enough for this. This is awesome.
What do you mean by that, Dr. Hazen? Will you give an example?
Yeah, you know, I was trying to think about it, but you know, there was one where, you know, I love the idea of the increase, I think it was at the middle school, increase metric by 10%, which is awesome. But what's the long-term, like, where are we trying to get ultimately? Not just over the 2023-24 school year, but like, what is that may not be a number, but might be a like, this is the, and again, I know it's highlighted in the goals and the initiatives, but it's the like, what's the vision from the site as to how these are, and that comes into the, you know, the LCAP and the site specific SIPSAs as well. So it's not that it doesn't exist anywhere, but I just want to make sure we're packaging that in a way that someone doesn't look and be like, wow, all they care about is the data, because that's not the only thing we're doing here, is what I'm trying to say. Loving the data.
So you want more data, but not to lose the heart of everything.
Very well said. Better
Okay.
than me again. Second time tonight, someone said something better than me. So I'm
I just
keeping
want to make sure I understand, because I think it's important for us to understand each other.
I
So
appreciate that. No, that's great.
thank you. Clerk McNary.
I think you covered it pretty well, and Brian, you too. Thank you. I don't want to know the amount of work it took to coordinate and put all of this together and make it digestible and understandable for us, but it makes me really excited to see where we're at and to have a baseline. So thank you for doing this and doing it late and doing it maybe without a lot of guidance, and creating something for us to have to work with, and for us to be able to show the public, like in the spring, hey, here's what we've done. It's really appreciated. And thank you for staying up with us tonight, Josh.
He's still awake. He's still awake. And will you remind me, is this on the website? I don't think it is yet. Or
It is not yet. So after
Okay.
tonight, we'll post it. Yeah.
Okay, that's super cool.
I know it's an info item, but if there was any, you know, suggestive tweaks from the board, we wanted to make that change before we posted it. And I'm digesting everything that's been said, and I agree completely. I think that when we look through the lens of what our annual targeted KPIs, you mentioned this earlier, right? I mean, we want 100% in some areas, not 10%, but we're also looking about what's relative to the year. Right. So, and that's important to focus on. So, and I also would like to see, you know, incremental movement as we move down the fiscal years, or sorry, through the next school year. So it might be 10% this year. And if we exceeded the 10% by 15 and we had 25%, I think that it would give us a higher target for the next year.
Completely agree. I'm thinking of those scenarios. Again, this is not specific to the district, because I do not believe we're doing this, but there are plenty of times where I've seen like increased by 10%, and then that's the goal next year, is increased by 10%. And even, you know, so we just want to make sure that we see the arc, not just the annual. And again, I'm really not trying to put more work on it. I know that there's so much more that goes into this than the data packaging. So just want to make sure that's.
And most of our comments are like for the 2.0 version next year, right? Because this ship is sailing. It hasn't sailed, but it's sailing. Trustee Otmar? No, I'm sorry. Trustee Otmar. Okay, please. It's you.
I can see where you're coming from with that. I also think that looking at this, having attainable goals each year feels a little bit, it just feels attainable. I think looking at a large goal can feel overwhelming. And so breaking it into pieces. I was reading this again last night, and as I read through this, I thought this is basically a roadmap for our entire district to reach our goals with check-in points, which is really cool, because there's coming back and reviewing it and seeing where we're at as we move through the year is essential. And I think that, again, I don't know how much time this must have taken to get it where it's at, but this is phenomenal. And I'm excited for the district that this is happening. So thank you. for all of the work you've put in. This is great.
Well, I give credit where credit's due, and the sites, this is, this may have been a shift in what they were used to previously, but it was received kind of with open arms. And also, I mean, this is important, as you mentioned, for the sites. They want to be able to have measurable, attainable goals throughout the year. Initiatives associated with strategies and goals associated with what the board has directed us to do. So this is important. This is something that I would like to see move forward and carry forward with the new superintendent. I will work with her directly on this, seeing this move forward. This is something, as I mentioned before, I worked on the cabinet at the county office. We didn't have this there either. And as you can imagine, at a county level, it was like a 100-page document. So a heck of a lot bigger. But I think that, it's nice to have metrics involved, like what are we going to measure and how are we going to measure it and what are our goals? It's crucial for us to focus on that because there's a lot of folks doing the work. And if we have something to specifically target and focus, I think it makes the goal more attainable. So thank you. And shout out to the principals and directors for this. This was a group and collaborative effort. Thank you all.
Big thanks to all of you. This is awesome. Thank you.
Trustee Brian Swanson, did I start with you? I feel like I did start with you. Okay, I have two follow-up questions that popped in my mind. Tell me briefly how this feeds the LCAP or the LCAP feeds it. Because if I remember correctly, like our goal, all of our goals are kind of supposed to have a marriage.
Right. So sorry. When I looked at the 2020, 21, 22 document, you're right. There are LCAP initiatives associated with each one. So what I did not do when I prepared this document was tie it back to the LCAP, but every strategy we focused on is tied to the LCAP. So it is directly tied to the LCAP. And I know when we're looking at modifying the board goals or the district goals and the strategic plan for the district, that it's the heavy focus is to shift focus to the LCAP.
So 2.0. Well,
yeah, 2.0, right. So strategy one, development and a comprehensive standards-based educational program is tied to our LCAP goals. I just need to identify it on here.
That makes a lot of sense. I have a comment for the Forest Grove item. Actually, I do have a comment on that one. I was reading it and I was struggling with something on it, and I'm realizing like if we're gonna post this on our website that like other folks might not be able to understand it in the same way that I'm confused. So I will just say briefly that board goal number 1, which is on page 59, it starts with Forest Grove Elementary School. And the goal is about how every student, that we want every student to be proficient or above grade level. So I'm like reading that like, okay, this is about students, but then the metrics and the progress indicators are just talking about number of staff meetings and number of grade level team meetings. Now that actually might be relevant for that goal because maybe having staff meet is like perhaps I'm guessing like the first step in getting students to increase their proficiency. But if that could be more clear, if that is the case, if that could be more clear, that would be phenomenal for me.
Yeah, I think it would be important for us to kind of elaborate on what PLCs are doing currently and how it ties into the educational process targeting students specifically, so we can make those edits.
Because that is related to
like a
student
note.
success, correct? Okay. So for a layperson like me, I was like, I don't know. Okay. So that's all I have. We're gonna go out to public comment and then we'll come back around in case anything pops in a board member's mind. So anyone online with their digital hand up? I don't see anyone. You don't see anyone either, Liz. Okay. Do we have anyone here? I mean, this is kind of like a project that touches everyone in the room. So if anyone in the room would like to come up and say something, you don't have to, but you're absolutely welcome to. Yeah, please.
Beth Shamas again. I like what you said. I think what I would call that is a 5-year plan. Because you do need to know the overall goal. And that's something that you guys as board can talk about in terms of, what is the latest that's happening in terms, of I'm thinking about how we did this real shift at the high school to the college prep, and that was a big deal. And it's all very influenced by current events, by what's happening in the community and what that parent expectations are. And that changes. So you have to be kind of always getting the pulse on what is going on, like now I would say there's more of a focus on, well, what are you doing for my kids for vocations? What if my kid doesn't want to go to college? That's where we are, so those kinds of things lend themselves to looking at what needs to be changed. And it's hard to do it in just 1 year. So, okay. And the other thing is, where you were here, President Carolyn, on page 59, when I'm looking at the board goal 1 between Forest Grove and Robert Down, I'm wondering, why is it different? Why are we doing this? Why are we separating them out and saying, okay, you as a site, you come up with this, how would you address this? And then you at our other elementary site, you address it. And now we got 2 different things where one, Forest Grove's going to have 3 to 4 training sessions. So that means no training for Robert Down. Why? Because they didn't identify it, because they don't need it. I don't know. But I mean, I always think that that's where we kind of get messed up in terms of not having that unified curriculum and progress for those 2 schools. There's only 2 schools. That's all my comments.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else with their hand up. I'd like to pick up a little bit of Beth's comment, and just so we do have a moment of either clarity, or maybe it's just something we do in 2.0. But my assumption was that they were different because the schools are maybe at different spots, or they are 2 different schools, so they have maybe different needs. But I also value, and I know that a lot of folks value in our community, the schools being aligned. So like, how do we balance that going forward? Do we kind of, and I don't want to ask like, did the 2 schools collaborate? Because honestly, I guess it's not really relevant at this point. We've got this document, but there is some meat to that as a board member that I'm very interested in.
So I actually have a simple answer for you.
What is it?
I asked each one of the sites to pick one specific strategy to focus on this year. So the strategic plan had multiple strategies, and then multiple initiatives could be associated with each one of those strategies. So that's simply just about the makeup of this year's 1.0 version. Moving forward, we can very easily have each site focus on, depending on how many strategies the board decides to have in the new version of the strategic plan. But that's simply a focus. At the county office, that's what we did. Every single program and site focused on all strategies. Now, there might have been a goal and 3 strategies, so it was very simple for a site to focus on all 3 strategies. This year, I just simply asked each one of the site principals and the directors to focus on one.
Okay, so there might be more alignment or overlap in the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I so appreciate public comment, because it really does help foster our discussion. So thank you, and thank you everyone for doing public comment. Lewis, I don't see anyone with their hand up. You don't either. Okay. And I don't see anyone here making their way to the podium, but you're welcome to. Yes. Dr. Hagquist is making his way.
I just wanted to comment on one of the goals that was mentioned regarding WASC at the high school, and which is really a self-study process. A lot of people look at the Western Association of Schools and Colleges visit that's going to be happening this year as like an external agency coming in to audit our school. That's not the case. It's really a self-study. And so the self-study process is reflective. It involves all the people in the school. And one important thing about the WASC process is that we establish further goals through the process by studying our own needs, right? Our own strengths and areas of growth. One thing that's important to know is that these goals right here can serve as sort of an umbrella for what's going on in the schools. And there's further documentation at the school sites through the PLCs, the goals that are being developed, and the data that's being looked at in the PLCs. In the WASC process, we're going to have goals that are all going to be tied to metrics, right? Our SIPSA is also going to have goals that are tied to metrics. So this is the umbrella, and the documents at the sites are going to be able to address some of those metrics at a finer level. So what we're all aiming at is coherence, right? That all of these different documents that come out of our processes tie together, right? And help to give our whole system coherence. So they're all connected. And so Josh, what Josh presented tonight is connected to the LCAP, which is connected to each one of the sites, which is connected to the WASC process and what's going on in the PLCs and the site SIPSAs. So I think what's going to be important at the board level to look at is all of those things, right? Not just this. So if you're looking for the data is going to be available.
Thank you for saying that, because I looked up your item that you were talking about. It's on page 64. When it comes to high school and community high school actionable initiatives for metrics, it says various meetings to seek input from staff, students, and families. And for me as a board member, I'm like, how do I gauge that? How many meetings? Is it that you had 6 this year and next year you want 8? Or is it that you want 4 because you want them to be more productive? I don't really have much to go off of for that metric.
Right,
So
but
you're
that
saying
metric
that
leads
data
to
will
more
come.
metrics. So you have various meetings. For instance, we have 5 meetings for our WASC process right now in the fall. We're coming up on our 4th meeting on Monday. We'll have another one in December. And through those meetings, we're engaging in a self-study process, and we're looking at our past goals. We're refining them. We're seeing needs. We're developing new goals, seeking input from all multiple levels of stakeholders, developing those goals, and those goals will be available for the board to look at as we have a completed WASC self-study in February.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Which is going to be in alignment with the LCAP, which is going to be in alignment with the SIPSA. In fact, chapter 4 of our self-study is the SIPSA document.
Great. And I think, Mr. Jordan, you were saying that this document does marry with the LCAP. It's just that, like formatting wise, you were going to add, is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I didn't highlight it on the implementation plan, how it aligned with the LCAP.
But it definitely
does,
speaks
yes.
to and is friends with, if not close friends.
The
with
entire
LCAP.
board strategic plan
Okay.
does align with the LCAP.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Hagway, so much. Oh, Director Rogan.
Good evening, board. I just want to talk a little bit about alignment and starting off with the whole idea of aligning this strategic plan with the LCAP. I think that as we are drafting a new LCAP for the next 3 years, we're going to be in that phase of the development. We can take a look at the action items that are going to be in support of the LCAP goals, which are in support of our strategic plan goals, and begin to align the strategies with the action items that are in the LCAP. And then I think that adds another layer of structure and alignment. Also want to talk a little bit about the alignment efforts that are going on at the elementary school, because I think it's an important thing to note. One of the items that you'll notice in that document, and the document's big, so maybe you didn't notice, but there was a meeting of an elementary report card committee to establish some guidelines for the comments and also that are going into the report cards at the elementary level. That was a call from both sites to meet and to set up kind of a standard response. And it's not that it's going to be canned and not individual for each student, but certain elements are going to be present on the report card. And we will put that document up on our newly designed curriculum webpage, which of course is another one of the action items that we have here. Also, the ELA adoption is going to be a great effort toward aligning our English language arts instruction in grades 3 through 5. I was going to talk a little bit about that when we discuss state testing. I think that one of the things that has happened is that when you have a current adoption that teachers are dissatisfied with, that the implementation and use of that is disjointed, that some teachers are using it more than others currently. So if we get an adoption that teachers like and want to use, then the implementation of that will be more standard throughout the district too. So that's an effort to align our instruction. Also, you will remember that we brought before you 2 contracts, one for IXL and one for eSpark. Those are being used consistently across the district. That in grades K through 2, it's eSpark that's being used. In grades 3 through 5, it's IXL that are being used. They may be used to different extents in each classroom, but the product is the same. That was another thing that we aligned. And then finally, the bias incident response training that we are eventually going to do with our admin staff is another way for us to be able to align between our sites so we have more consistency in how we respond to those kinds of incidents. So we are conscious of that as we go about doing our work. Thank you.
Thank you. This item is actually like very exciting to me. Even though, you know, like at board meetings we're, you know, we have our calm demeanor, but this is super exciting. And I would almost wonder if like when it comes back for the update or when we're going to really like thoroughly dig in, maybe we do it as a special meeting. I don't know. I mean, I get, what do you think, Mr. Jordan?
Yeah, there's a lot,
huge.
there's absolutely a lot to unpack in all of the layers below this document, kind of as Dr. Hagquist alluded to. So I
Yeah,
think that
it's
having
amazing.
the time to dig in is very important for the board
Okay.
and for the public to hear.
Yeah, tonight I learned things that I did not know. And I can just imagine if we went through that we, you know, that would carry over in so much of this. And I think also make us kind of all feel like a team. So I think that would be really cool. Board, did anything else pop in your minds about this? We've gone out to the public. No? Okay. Okay, so we're going to gently move on now to information item C, which is the 2023 state testing results. And this is a Director Rogaman item.
Good evening, trustees. I always appreciate it when you save the most fun item for the end of the meeting. So we're going to talk a little bit about the testing results from 2023. And, you know, it's my pleasure to get up here and talk about these results because one of the things they are is a product of the teaching and learning that's going on in our schools. And the first thing that I want to do when I open is really compliment each and every one of the people that are at our sites doing the hard work of educating our children every single day in the district. And although these are the results of that hard work, I also want to say that they aren't necessarily indicative of the quality of that work. This is a snapshot in time that we're getting of student achievement. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means as we go on through this presentation. As we do talk a little bit about the testing results that we see here, I want to start by talking a little bit about the assessments to begin with. I gave this overview last year, and I think it's important not only for the trustees to understand, but for the public that's here to understand what this is. CASP is the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, and that is the name of the overall testing system that we do. So that includes the SBAC testing in English Language Arts and Math, that includes the CCST or the California Science Test, and that includes the LPAC or the English Language Proficiency Assessments of California. And so when you're looking at the SBAC English Language Arts, our students that take that are in grades 3 through 8 and also in grade 11. SBAC Math is grades 3 through 8 and also grade 11. And the CST is grades 5, 8, and then either 11 or 12, just deciding on what the high school chooses to do. And then the LPAC are all students that are designated as English learners take that summative test. When you look at the SBAC test, and SBAC stands for the Smarter Balanced Assessment Consortium. I know that when we throw acronyms up there, it's always kind of nice to know what they mean. And so that's what that one means. And there are two aspects to both the English Language Arts Smarter Balanced Assessment and the Math Smarter Balanced Assessment. There is a element of it that is a computer adaptive test. And the graphic will explain a little bit about how that happens. But really the test starts with the students get a medium range question, and then the adaptive software adjusts on whether or not the student is getting that answer correct or incorrect. And then the student scores based on where they end up. For the performance tasks, the students are given a task. It's either a written question in English Language Arts, or it's a multi-step mathematical problem. And it's going to require more complex thinking on the part of the student. And it's also going to assess multiple standards at any given time. The California Science Test really looks at life science, earth and space science, and physical sciences. And it's going to be what the students know using the next generation science standards that they've gained throughout the instruction up until the year that they're tested. So that'll be in 5th grade and 8th grade, and also in either 11th or 12th. Again, it's a computer adaptive test. And then there's also 2 or 3 performance tests that wind up going along with the California Science Test. And then the LPAC, the English Language Proficiency Assessments of California, test the students basically in 4 areas. And that's listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Then you get an idea of how long each one of those segments is supposed to take for students in grades K through 2, and also for students in grades 3 through 8. And I believe the high school standards are the same as they are for like the junior high. Okay, so now the testing results. I think that one of the things to note right off the bat is that Pacific Grove Unified School District scores are going to be much higher than the state averages, and they're going to be much higher than the county averages. So I know that there's going to be maybe a little bit of disappointment in the fact that our English Language Arts scores dropped when you look at this graphic by about 4.5%. Math basically stayed the same. It dropped by like around what, 0.7%. I think that one of the main messages to take away from this first slide is that coming out of the pandemic isn't a one-year job, right? That last year was the first year that we had data from our students coming out of the pandemic. And I don't know if you remember my presentation last year, but we mentioned that that was a baseline. And I did caution that it was going to take more than 1 year for us to be able to see the recovery take place. And so I think that what we see here is that in English Language Arts, where our scores are higher, it's harder to maintain a higher score than it is to maintain a lower score. That's part of the results that we're seeing here as well. A district that is very similar to us as far as the testing scores go, Carmel Unified experienced about a 5.5% drop in their English Language Arts scores and about a 2% drop in math. So with a district that's comparable to ours, I think that what they're seeing is what we're seeing, in that these filling the gaps that have come to us out of the pandemic is going to be a multi-year issue and not just a singular one. When you look at the overall state scores and look at the overall county scores, they're basically flat. Okay, that there wasn't a whole lot of change in either English Language Arts or in mathematics for the county. These are the state and county results for 22-23. You're going to remember that we are at 70 and 56%, right? 70 in ELA and 56% in math. California as a state is under 47% in English Language Arts and under 35% in math. When you look at, let's see, Monterey County, the county as a whole is scoring at 35% in English Language Arts and around 21%, almost 22% in math. When I look at our the labels are the state's labels, so I don't mean to, engage in deficit speak as we, identify these groups, but our socioeconomically disadvantaged youth experienced a 3% growth in English language arts and a almost 5% growth in math. One of the things I think that you remember from the LCAP is that this is one of our groups that we tried to emphasize assisting this year. And so I think that our intervention efforts surface here when we're starting to look at our socioeconomically disadvantaged youth. When we talk about Title I programs, it's the Title I federal money that goes to fund these programs that help these students. Once we identify the students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged that need assistance in our district, if there's more room for other students to receive intervention, then those students can be part of that program as well. You can also see the numbers from before the pandemic. As far as the mathematics scores go, our students actually scored better this year in math than they did pre-pandemic. English language arts still has about a 9% drop. State and county. Once again, our numbers here are 53 and 36. The state is 35 and 22. County is 29 and 16. All right, when we look at our Hispanic students, we have 188 of them. And you know what? It's important to point out the number of students too. So our SED youth, we had 154. When we tested the whole group, that's out of 912. Okay. So when you look at our Hispanic students, we have 188 of them in the district. In English language arts, their score was at about 63%. Math was 50.71. So for English language arts, that represents 2 percentage points of growth in English language arts from the previous year. And with math, it represents a 12% growth. This is the largest amount of growth that we saw with any of the groups that we are keeping track of. Again, I would like to think that is due to the intervention efforts that we have going on. The one thing with test scores is it's kind of hard sometimes to pinpoint exactly the reason why. But what we're doing is really trying to run a robust intervention program at each one of our levels to support our students who need the help. And so this is some of the fruit of that labor that we're seeing. If you look at the pre-pandemic scores, we are within 4% in English language arts of the pre-pandemic with our Hispanic students, and math is 6 points ahead of where we were pre-pandemic. There's the state and county numbers for the Hispanic students. So statewide, you see it's 36 and 22, countywide 30 and 17. Once again, to compare that to us, we were at 63 and 50. When we look at our English language learners, we have 34 of them district-wide. So that's going to be 34 students that are stretched out across 7 grades that are taking the tests. And this is probably the most baffling slide for me. That when we're trying to figure out, I think some of it can be attributed to the small number. I think that if the small number is going to attribute to the reduction in our students that were at or above for English language arts, then we also have to attribute some of the growth in math to the tiny numbers as well. So just to give you some idea, when only 34 students are being measured, that 20% drop that you see is seven students. So a 10% growth, it's 3.4 students, but I don't know what 0.4 of a student is, right? So, but just to kind of make the point, the smaller the number is, the more difficult it is to tell if it's a trend or an anomaly. And then you see the previous scores from 2018-19 for our English language learners. Interestingly, our language arts scores are about the same in California and the state, and then the math scores for our district are much higher. When we look at our recent fluent English proficient students, our English language arts scores dropped by about 11 points. but our math scores went up by 7 points for this group. And when you look at the pre-pandemic numbers, we are gaining on math, but we still have a ways to go to catch up to the English language arts numbers. That 80% number was really high. For any population, an 80% English language arts score is very high. If we set as a district goal, and I know that the pie in the sky goal is 100% being, at or above. But if we set a district goal of reaching 80%, that is something that I think could be attainable over the next series of years as we recover and come out of the pandemic. As far as the math goes, once again, we see growth from last year to this year, but yet we still have a ways to go to catch up to where we were in 2019. Interestingly enough, the number of RFEP students is up 8 from the previous year, but down about 42 from 18-19. Don't know exactly why. County numbers, 57 and 37 for math and English language arts. For Monterey County, it's 52 and 25. So once again, we're way above in math. We start to look a little bit more like the county in English language arts with our RFEP students. Our students with disabilities in 22-23, there were 123 tested. That's compared to 134 last year and 116 the year before the pandemic. We experienced a 13-point drop with our students with disabilities this year, and then about a 2% drop with our math scores there. And you can see how that compares to the pre-pandemic numbers, where we are at the same level that we were with math, but we are about 11 points behind where we were in English language arts. So that's 22 and 21. When we look at the state and county numbers, the state is 15 and 12, county is 9 and 7. I think that also speaks volumes to the work that our special education staff, not only the teachers, but the paras and the classified staff that assist, do with our students. Okay, this is the scariest slide to look at, right? This is the one that has basically a 3-year comparison grade by grade as you go through it. And the number that I would like to point out, is my arrow showing up? Yes, is right down here at the bottom. I think that one of the things that this is showing, it's a couple things. One is that the effect of the pandemic wasn't as severe with our older students as it was with our younger. And then I also think that as our students progress through the grade levels, by the time they get to 11th grade, they're at a pretty high rate of proficiency in English language arts. If you want to dive deeper into that, you can trend the number of students that have been tested in each grade. You can follow cohort scores, but it's harder to do on this chart than it would be if they were listed in a different manner. But that's, I think, a takeaway there. The opposite is true when you look at math. And this goes to show, I think, math gets harder the older you get. And if you were in the pandemic when you were older and trying to learn math, it might have taken a bigger toll on you than maybe it does with some of our younger students. And I say that because the difference with our 3rd and 4th grade students is not that great. But as our students start to get older, you start to see that difference exaggerated, especially in 8th grade and especially in 11th. Okay. And then the science. The science scores remained pretty much the same in 5th grade from one year to the last, and they were a little bit higher than they were before the pandemic. 8th grade experienced a 4 percentage point drop. And then when you look at the high school scores, we tested 11th and 12th grade in 18-19. We did 12th grade only in 21-22. And then we did 11th and 12th grade in the current year. And you could see that there's been, an improvement, that the scores are going up in science. Oops. Okay, with the LPAC scores, they were pretty much the same. And not only were they same with the students that were well-developed and or level 3 and level 4, but even when you look at level 1 and level 2, that the distribution is very, very similar there as well. So we're approaching the pre-pandemic numbers in terms of like, you know, the students that scored in level 4. But we haven't quite matched that yet. And there's the state and county numbers for the LPAC. 16% and 15. We are at 27. When you look at the school-wide comparison between Robert Down and Forest to Forest Grove, I know this is something that the trustees have always been interested in seeing. One of the things that we do is we do start talking about the populations and what the difference is between the population at Forest to Forest Grove and Robert Down. You can see the school-wide totals on the top of this chart, and then you can also see the totals for grades 3 through 5 on the bottom. And this chart is just showing a year-by-year comparison for English language arts in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade for Robert Down and Forest Grove. The bright green and bright red are 22-23 numbers. The lighter green and the lighter red are 21-22 numbers as you go to look at that chart. And then we have the same chart for math. Once again, remember the bright colors are for 22-23 and the lighter colors are for 21-22, the older ones. Okay, and then when you look at the science scores, this is from the 5th grade. And you can, once again, see the 22-23 scores in bright green and red. And then as the colors fade, the year is older in that chart. The trend that we see that students tend to achieve higher scores at Robert Down than they do at Forest Grove continues in this year's data. Takeaways are that we can continue to score well above the state and county averages. And I know that sometimes when you see maybe a drop in data, nobody wants to see that. But at the same time, I think we need to recognize that the effort of our teachers and, you know, the job that our parents are doing at home too, their educational partners, we get students that come to school ready to learn, and our teachers are doing a good job, you know, getting the California state standards taught, and this data reflects that. And then also, I think the other positive takeaway is that many of the groups that we emphasize serving in the LCAP, where we wanted to put a lot of our effort, showed some real nice growth this year. And I think that, you know, the beginning of the presentation showed that. And I think that our populations should remain a focus with our district, especially if we're starting to see growth. It would be great to be able to capitalize on that growth so we can see even more in the years to come. And shall I keep the presentation up there while we get questions in case we need to reference numbers? Okay. Then I'll go ahead and do that and turn it back over to you, President Carolyn.
Thank you, Buck. Clerk McNary.
Thank you for the presentation and
Sure.
for making this digestible for all of us. I think, as you would expect, what sticks out to me are the differences between Robert Down and Forest Grove. And I know we have 2 sites, but all of those students deserve to be at grade level. And when I see the ELA scores and the math scores and how big the gaps are between the 2 sites, it makes me wonder if we should be dividing up our resources differently or looking at what more we can do so more kids can be at where we want them to be.
I think that's a great point. And one of the things that we've done to divide the resources a little bit differently is that we do have, you know, an additional intervention teacher at Forest Grove now, and the intervention teacher's focus this year is on mathematics. And so one of the things that Mr. Russo has done, I think that is going to prove to be very helpful, is he showed the teachers at Forest Grove how to enter the SWON mathematics units tests into the online testing program, which breaks down the student performance by standard and skill so that we know and can zero in on the standard and skill where students need the most work. And then they work with Mr. Russo on those skills. So that's one of the examples that we're doing. Also, well, the reading intervention staffing is the same. And what I would have to do is check with our intervention teachers to see if the numbers of students being served at each site is the same. I don't think it is. I think that more students are being served in a pull-out reading intervention in the early grades at Forest Grove than are being pulled out at Robert Down. And I think that one of the things that happens is when you see those grades and the scores in grades 3, 4, and 5, if there are more students in grades 1 and 2 requiring intervention, it stands to reason that those scores might not be as high as students who are at grade level in grades 1 and 2. So there's a catching up process that has to happen at Forest Grove right now that's resulting in that difference. And we all are in agreement that we would love for all sites to be at that 80 or above number. And those are some of the things we're doing to try to get there.
Thanks. I would say it's more than a catching up process because it's something that I've seen at least since I've been a parent in this district. And I feel like there have always been very valid reasons given why it is that way. But I think as a parent of a child who may not be performing at grade level, I would want to see for my kid, you know, what additional efforts and resources could be directed. Because when I think about kids not being at reading level standard at 3rd grade or 4th grade, like they're not accessing their education and they're really not being set up for success. So I appreciate your efforts and I would love there to be more behind it so all of our kids can get there. Thank you.
I think one of the things that we can look at is staffing too, that as we go to make our staffing decisions, I think we need to be cognizant of that need at Forest Grove as we go to staff our schools. So thank you for that support because we're going to need it. Okay.
Trustee Otmar?
I agree. Thank you for this presentation.
Sure.
And I agree with what Trustee McNary is saying that it's what I noticed it as well. That you know there could be a little more spreading out of resources, perhaps, but it sounds like that's something that's in the works. And I hadn't thought about the early years really contributing to what these test scores are showing. I did notice that on slide, I don't know if you can go back to slide 24.
I think that's it.
Yes.
The ELA comp between the schools.
Yes. And so if I'm reading it correctly, that Forest Grove exceeded standard, their numbers were higher than Robert Down. And I thought that that was interesting because 2 years prior would have been pandemic. So I wonder if there was, am I reading that correctly?
No,
I'm not.
these are the ones that did not meet standard. The ones on the right are the ones
I'm
that
looking
met
at 5th
standard.
grade.
Oh,
At
fifth grade. Sorry about that.
Exceeded standard.
Yes, that
So
the
in
ones
the
that
2
exceeded
years-
standards at Forest Grove were higher than the ones at Robert Down.
So that starts me thinking whatever was happening pre-pandemic may have been effective in whatever was happening in Forest Grove. I don't know if, I mean, I know that there's been a lot of changes, but you know, I don't know. Just looking at that, it was a trend that or it's something that I noticed on there. So
One of the things that the state does offer is growth data from 1 year to the next. So so when we redesign the curriculum page, we intend to have a data section of that where we can tell a little bit more of the story in detail about what you're seeing here. One of the things that became really evident when you look at the English language arts is that the greatest opportunity for growth that we have as a district is that focus on writing. And so what that also does is it ties into the grading for equity work that we're doing, trying to increase the use of rubrics throughout our schools. that's one of those writing practices that's research based that shows that can help students improve their writing ability. So as far as the English language arts area that we would want to focus on is writing. With math, it's in concepts and procedures, basically taking your knowledge about math and applying it to solving a problem. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I
Pointing that out.
do just want to comment too, that I think that these numbers speak so much to the dedication that our teaching staff has shown and the emotional support and the caring that has gone into teaching post-pandemic. It's going to take some time, but this is so promising because just being so far above what the state standard is now, I think that's a true reflection of the love and dedication that we have here in the district. And I'm really proud to have my kids in this district.
And I agree. And I would echo what Interim Superintendent Jorn said, that they're the best teachers in the world, and we're lucky to have them here. Right.
Thank you for
that. Trustee Brian Swanson.
Thank you for the presentation. These ones too, always just, it's like I sit here and it's like, all right, well, what if I add this column to that? And what if it's like we met or exceeded, and then you met and they're nearly met. And it's like, I can play around with those all day long. I almost wish there was an interactive version that we could do, or that we could play around with. It's no surprise that we're seeing the impact of COVID continue to linger on. And I think it's even beyond that. I think it's not just COVID. I think it's partly the times that we live in, and mental health is so much a big part of what we're all dealing with, whether you're a kid or whether you're an adult. It's just kind of hard to be a person sometimes these days. And I think we see that impact too. So whether it's, one thing I think that had been mentioned was the notion of like redistributing or where some of our resources are. I'd like to see us kind of just add more wherever, instead of like, all right, we got 100% and we're going to, divide it up this way. But it's like, let's figure out where we need more. And because I'm sure at both sites, I'm talking specifically about
the elementaries,
Robert, yeah, but that it's like, well, maybe we just need more to keep it going. And I'm happy to see what our numbers are. That I look at the California numbers, and that's terrifying. But I'm happy at least we're above that.
Right. Yeah.
So.
No, I understand. And I think that, that it's interesting because it measures one aspect of a person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There wasn't a test to see how joyful our students were or how safe they felt. I mean, there is, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. Right. Yeah. Right. The California Healthy Kids Survey is coming. We have metrics for that too. But this doesn't take into account any of that. And one of the things that we really emphasized last year too was the social emotional learning aspect of teaching our children. And that year that we came out of the pandemic. And we wanted to make sure that we didn't put too much stress and anxiety on them by, really trying to accelerate the learning. I think that as you go to visit the campuses now, you can see that there's growth in terms of the engagement that students have in school and the comfort level that they have in being around each other, that the last couple of years, they've become more accustomed to the interactions that they've had with each other. And so we're not trying to teach them how to get along again. We are, because we always are, right? But at the same time, you can see that, it's more like school. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. I'm on the list for comments, and then we'll go to Dr. Hazen. So, I know that this is a snapshot of kids. I know that really well because my kid actually typically opts out of these tests. My child is a child who learns differently and anyway, so these test numbers are interesting to me. I just keep trying to figure out a way. I had this conversation, it was this week, and it was I met another family who had a child similar to mine. And I'm like, oh, like I'd never met them before. So I was talking with them and I was like, you know, what school is your child in? They were clearly in elementary age. And they said, oh, well, we just moved here a couple months ago and we looked online. We researched the schools online and we saw that Robert Down was the far superior school. And that's the school we chose. That's where we wanted to live in PG. And it did make my heart sink a little, you know, because even though these test scores are one slice, that seems to be how folks gauge our success.
It's one slice that we get judged by.
We do.
Right.
We absolutely get judged by it. For me as a board member, I'm maybe I should be more concerned. I'm not that concerned about standardized tests, and maybe that's because of my own personal experience as a parent. Because I know there's so much more to students, and I know that my student has an absolutely fabulous experience at Forest Grove. But like, how can we evaluate, gauge our students in a more holistic way so that online, I mean, I realize this might be like state legislation level to be like, hey, standardized tests fine, but like include some more data, please. How can we do that? And maybe we can start with our own website because it's kind of breaking my heart.
Right. So we can absolutely start there. I think one of the places that we have all already started is giving teachers a tool. It's coming soon that they haven't had before. And that's working with Mr. Binder to develop the Synergy Analytics site. And what it does is it basically gives one page for a student that will have buttons that teachers can click on to have all this data at their fingertips so they can use it to, you know, inform instruction. I think there's really good awareness of what student test scores and things are at the elementary level when there's 20 to 26 students in a room. It's a little harder when the student gets to sixth grade, and now a teacher has like 90 kids or 110 kids that they're trying to track.
Yeah.
Whereas if they just could pull up the child and look at a single sheet, press on the buttons and get some data that not only has this test, but it has the MAP testing that will also have the core social emotional results in it. So you can find out a little bit about the student that you're going to be working with as well, along with attendance data, you know, so you can start to get a richer vision of that child. And if all we wanted to do was increase our test scores, then what we would do is focus on the students that scored the lowest in the green and focus on the students that scored the highest in the yellow, and forget about the students that are in the red and that are in the blue, so we could move those numbers up in that critical area. But there's not a teacher in this district that wants to do that. And none of us want them to do that because we're not going to hang our hat and our self-worth on these scores. Right. And so I think what you can speak to that makes Forest Grove the special place that it is, right, is that it is a community of caring and loving professionals that are doing amazing work with students that come to Forest Grove in a different place than students come to Robert Down. The starting point is just different. Okay. And so the district houses the inclusion program for the district of the students who are still able to access this test. And those scores are always going to figure in there. And it's going to be harder for those students to achieve at the same level as the other students. One of the interesting facts of all this data, right, is, our white students, their 4% drop in English language arts and 1.5% drop in math almost mirror exactly the trend that we have in the district. And they make up around 58% of the population right now. So it's not like it's 90%, so that trend would hold. But I think that, we don't want to see any group drop. But the fact that we've made some progress with student groups that that we've put our focus on is something for the district to be proud of. I don't know where I took that, President Swanson, but in terms of like trying to paint a holistic picture, I think that we
Yes.
have the ability to do that through the revamped website that we're looking
I
at.
think so, because
Yeah.
I'm just imagining like, when you're thinking, especially I think about military families, they're always trying to figure out where are we going to go? Where's the best place for our school? If on our website, of course we already have school websites.
Yeah.
We have individual school websites. But they have the calendar and they have the nuts and bolts of it. But if there was even just like a paragraph that really described the heart and soul of our schools, because yes, please go ahead.
President Carolyn, I think the other thing too, is that if any parent asked a parent of a child at Forest Grove, the response that they would get from the Forest Grove parent would probably convince them to come to Forest Grove too. I mean, just as the Robert Down parents are very, very proud of the program and, their school, the experience that Forest Grove parents have at Forest Grove, I can't tell you. One of the greatest pleasures of being the principal there for 7 years was the feedback that I got from parents about the quality of the experience that their child had going through Forest Grove. So,
Yeah. And Robert Down is fantastic.
No, and I
That's the
cast
thing.
no
That's the thing
aspersions.
that's heartbreaking is like
Yeah.
they're both fantastic.
both
And I
fantastic
hate
schools.
this data. I absolutely hate
I
it.
know.
I dread it.
Well, we don't have to separate it by school. We don't.
It's funny because I'm always
Well,
asking
you look
for
at the
data.
grade level data.
I'm always
right?
asking for data. I'm always asking for measurable metrics. I get it. But this data hits me like a brick every time.
Well, it's because it makes an impression that isn't true.
Yeah, and you're right. We get judged on it.
Right.
We get judged on this data. So I guess our choice is either we're gonna focus on improving it or focus on increasing the narrative surrounding our schools. And that's like what we really have control over,
Right.
in my opinion, because otherwise we're gonna be skewed in a weird way.
Right. And at the heart, what we're really going to focus on are the little ones that come to our campus every single day.
Yeah.
That's where the focus is really going to lie. And then that narrative that we'll be able to tell is going to be 100% true. Whereas the data,
It's a slice. I mean, it's fine.
it is a slice.
It's fine that it's a slice, but yeah. So maybe you'll find the answer on putting what to put on our website.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
they go to our website,
Yeah.
they do. Okay, Trustee Hazen.
I'm going to start with the data and then circle back around because I said I love data, so I want to prove it. Not really, but I just want to talk about a few
Sure.
things. You mentioned quickly, and I'm glad you have this slide up. You mentioned quickly cohort tracking. I want to give an example of that because I think that is actually an incredibly valuable way to use this data that you allowed us to look at that and go through. So if you look at the top line, ELA grade 3, year 2018 to 19, met it exceeded 69%. You have to then jump 2 grades, go to 5th grade in the white because we didn't have testing in 2021, if I'm correct.
Right.
So you go to 5th grade in the middle in the white, you get a value of 76%. You then jump again to 6th grade, 22, 23. Now you're in the blue, the 4th kind of row down, and you get a value of 73%.
Yeah.
So some of this cohort testing, and I'll just give another example for math, same thing, 4th grade, 65%. There's a bigger drop off to 6th grade, 47%, 21, 22, but then a recovery to 7th grade of 52% in 22, 23.
Right.
So I do want to encourage that cohort tracking to be a way of showing this data because we are seeing more recovery. And I did not just cherry pick these. Looking through that, we are seeing more recovery when we track cohorts than we are by grade. So one quick data point. A second, you urged caution looking at a snapshot. I could not urge more caution in looking at a bar chart because a bar chart, you're seeing one number, which is hiding a mean and a standard deviation, right? So if we see a difference between Robert Down and Forest Grove, you can have one class underperforming, 2 classes overperforming. The mean or even the percentage share will come out not showing the true picture of what's happening. So if we are going to show bar charts, please put in mean and standard deviation if we can. Or again, this idea of the data dashboard that Brian brought up is perfect because it is a way to dig into that data and see what's real. And I still say it is a snapshot. So real data does not mean it's the pulse of our district, but at least you can see what that data is real. So I really, really like that idea. The other point that was brought up and, following, I really like the way you said that, President Swanson, that, this is something we get judged on. And, we brought up or proposed an agenda item on really discussing this site-specific equity. Then we've had a lot of things come up, a lot of change, a lot of concerns. But I think this is what needs to happen, because I agree completely. These two sites could not be more valuable as they are. I think when we dig into it, we're going to see the true colors of how valuable they are and how, much the experience the kids get out of it is great for those two sites. So I really do want to encourage us to consider that future agenda item again, particularly once we have our new superintendent in place soon. Going back to the high level, you showed California, but this is a nationwide issue. This is not unique to Pacific Grove. And, the thing that I'm most excited about here is that our teachers and staff are going above and beyond every single day. And, I want to make sure we as a board are giving them what they need to succeed and to continue to succeed as they are reversing this trend, making up the learning gap as needed due to COVID. And, on that front, there were two examples. Jessica Grogan brought up at the last meeting the need for additional training to meet dual enrollment expansion goals. That's a perfect example of something that we can do and we can support to help bring up some of those high level performers to exceed more. Another one I want to remind is that Erica Chavez brought up the idea of reintroducing, which I did not realize it used to be, the idea of elementary tutoring as an elective at the middle school. So these are ways we can do, creative high dosage tutoring for that intervention in a way that would really, again, benefit our district as a whole. So we're doing great. We're doing, the scores might make it look like we're not in some ways, but we're doing great. And my point that I've said to folks up on the podium all times, we can always do better. And we want to support you in keeping everybody here doing better. So again, thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
No questions. I don't think we're hidden there. Just some ideas for the data. I'd love to follow up with you if it would be useful too.
Trustee Hazen, one of the things we're trying to do is to access our AVID program and our AVID tutors to train fellow students to be able to, the high school students to be able to serve the students at Forest Grove, and then middle school students be able to serve the students at Robert Down. The tricky part with the middle school is that without it being embedded in the day, like when are they going to go down there? Right. The high school students is a little bit different because some of them are available after lunch. And so there might be some more availability for them to be able to get down to Forest Grove, which is where we have the greatest need. So
one idea on that is we do have students at the middle school that have, I know, served as, I think they're also called Yellow Jackets, for example, at Robert Down or Forest Grove. After school would be BASRP type time, would be a great opportunity for middle school students potentially to serve.
We can consider that. Yeah,
so
thanks.
Again, thank you guys so much. Again, the staff, the teachers, I can't thank you enough for what you're doing here, but let us know as a board how we can do more to help.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hayes. That reminded me of this opportunity that we had that it never came to fruition, but there was actually a local nonprofit that had a grant to provide tutors at before after school programs at no cost to the district. And it was a fascinating thing. And I ended up connecting them with the district, and long story short, it didn't happen, but I think there's still opportunities like that in the community. So if you ever want some help, I can reach back out to that nonprofit or whatever, like we're all kind of hoping to connect folks with our district more. So thanks for bringing that up, Elliot. With that, we're going to go out and see if there's any public comment, which I hope there is. Feels like we didn't already do public comment, right? We just finished board comments. Feels like we already did public comment on this. Okay. Thank you. So okay, great. We have Principal Arbron coming up.
I have so many thoughts, so I'll try to keep it condensed.
Yeah, you have 3 minutes. Take your time.
It's also probably going to be slightly scattered, but I have to start off by saying I wasn't with Forest Grove when all of these scores occurred, but I can wholeheartedly tell you I have the most dedicated, caring, loving staff that wants nothing but the best for every single child. That's everyone from our custodian to our intervention teachers, to our classroom teachers. Everyone is all hands on deck at Forest Grove. And that is something we can't create. So we are so fortunate. But when we talked about the strategic plan earlier, I had highlighted PLCs, and it's for this reason. we have some gaps that we need to close. This could be controversial in saying it, but I don't know that we need more resources. We have everything that we need. We have more resources than I've seen at so many other districts. We are so fortunate here, but we're not using them well. So the goal for PLCs for me is really getting our teachers, sorry, I'm on my soapbox, getting our teachers to know their standards, in and out, what's important, what's not. There is no way that you can teach every single standard in full fidelity throughout the year. There is not enough time. So we need to identify what those bolder standards are, what those big moments that they need to teach are. They need to spend their Thursday meetings discussing those standards, really fine-tuning those lessons together. And then from there, being able to identify with a common assessment that the teachers have created, what's working, what's not. How are we intervening with our kids? What does the small group look like tomorrow? Not 5 days from now, tomorrow. And then how are we helping each other? How are we distributing the load? We have everything we need, but there's so many cooks in the kitchen right now. It's really hard to get things moving. So ultimately, my goal for this year is getting us to really just hone in on those Thursday meetings, coming together, collaborating and discussing, are we using everything that we have to best support our kids? And then if we need more, definitely. But I think it's going to start with some training for our team, and that's going to be a slow lift. This isn't something that's going to happen this year. This is a 5-year project, and we're going to go slow because we can't burn our teachers out. We can't burn our staff out because honestly, no one's going to care more than they do. We have the best team. So let's just keep them going, but start the process slowly. Thank you.
Thank you. I really look forward to that part of the strategic plan, having like one sentence that ties it in, because it's I mean, that sounds amazing, and we shouldn't have people having to wonder because it really is focused on the students and that goal. So thank you so much, Principal Arbin, for your courage and coming up and speaking tonight. Anyone else maybe online or in person who want to speak? Oh, great. Dr. Hagquist is making his way up to the podium. If anyone's online and wishes to speak, just feel free to raise your digital hand and we'll call on you right after Dr. Hagquist.
Hello, I just wanted to make a quick statement here. We just listened to Director Rogeman give us a real detailed look at the data around our standardized test scores. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was mentioned is how perception is very important, but perception is not always reality. And we know that in education, looking at data is a challenge. There's a great book by Ellen Lageman called An Elusive Science, The Troubling History of Educational Research. Because there's so many variables that we can't control for. And so we have a lot of people that like to comment about data who aren't experts in data. One example was recently in the newspaper. I don't know if you read the headline, but there was a headline that said Pacific Grove test scores show little improvement from 2022. And I just wanted everybody to realize that that is really an example, a perfect example for the psychology classes of what we teach is the framing effect. So I want to give some alternative ideas. Headlines that could have come from the same data that was just presented. Pacific Grove test scores reveal growth for targeted populations. Pacific Grove test scores far exceed state averages. Test scores reveal that Pacific Grove students remain resilient in the wake of the pandemic. And then to follow up with what Mr. Hazen was saying, test scores reveal that we are doing great. The teachers are doing great. We need to use the data to help us to continue to improve. to do what Abby just said, which is to be able to spot areas where we can grow, but to tell a story that's a positive one, because we're an amazing district with incredible resources, incredible staff members who are working tirelessly to provide the best possible education for these kids. And so it's just so demoralizing to read in a headline somebody that would try to take data that's not an expert and spin it in a negative way. So I just needed to say that.
Thank you, Dr. Hagquist. Thank you, everybody, for coming up and doing public comment. It's very much appreciated. Just gonna see if there's anyone else to it. Please go ahead, Beth. We will come back for board comments after public comment.
Beth Schmass. The one thing that goes through my mind thinking about the pandemic, do we have any testing that reflects an increase in technological improvement for our students because they were all on their computers and and that's another way to reframe something that we had to deal with. And it was I feel I saw my grandson doing kindergarten on his iPad, and it was amazing. Like, I was so impressed that could really be a instructional tool that actually worked. Now, I'm not saying, at kindergarten, of course, it would be better in the classroom, but we were dealing with a crisis. Sometimes I think like, what? People don't understand what was going on. So, but I would like to know, like, what is it where we do tests for? I mean, kids take a little computer lab, right? Are they being tested on those skills? I imagine they are somehow, but it'd be interesting to see what kind of growth happened for a kindergartner, for gosh sakes, coming up through and knowing how to access, and that's another area that, is helpful for our world. Like, these are skills they have to know how to navigate through all of, and they do know, I know they know, but they need to know how to do it safely and to help them in their studies as well.
Thank you, Beshamos. Just looking really quickly. I don't see anyone with their hand up. We're down to 11 participants. Lewis, you don't see me. Okay. We'll go back to the board. Trustee Hazen, do you want to start?
Sure. I can't say enough. Thank you, everyone who came up and gave public comment. And it is a lot to think about. I mean, I'll focus quickly on the technology point, because this is one that I've been thinking about since the pandemic. Is it, and it's going to sound a little bit wrong, but I tell one of the lessons I tell my son all the time is we all are going to make mistakes. We're all going to have things that are going to set us back, like COVID. It's how you learn from them and how you fix them. And so I am encouraged to see some of the technological goals, that were presented in the previous item. I would love to, again, this is where I bring up that shoot for the moon idea, is how do we take, as was said, the technological development and apply that, moving forward to, again, help education. And again, I'm really excited. I know we will have good things when we have the time to go into that too. Another quick one just on the data side, and it comes back to the emotional health is, I try not to do this too much, but a quick story about my son. We just had our meeting with our teacher, got the report card. This was sorry. Maybe I should come back, but this was the first time he got all S's in behavior. Right. And this is, Mr. Keller, this well. I remember when he was in your office for hitting another kid with a bat in kindergarten, and we had to figure out, oh my gosh, do we have how do we deal with this? And the challenge that he faced in COVID, he hated every day of it, learning from home. Very different than my other child. But the fact that he's come back and has become such a resilient student in the district is, again, this is not because of his SBAC scores, guys. This is not why, right? These are the teachers. These are his peers. This is the family we have in Pacific Grove. Apologies.
Thank you, Dr. Hazen. Clerk McNary, do you want to take a break? We can take a short recess if you wish. No?
Yeah. Nothing additional from me. Thank you for sharing, Elliot.
Trustee Otmar.
I won't cry. I don't think I have anything additional to add other than thank you to everybody that got up and spoke. It's meaningful, and I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for the discussion, and I guess that's all I have to add.
Trustee Brian Swanson.
Yeah, the commentary, I love you up on your soapbox. And Dr. Hack was absolutely fantastic, you know, and I'm not going to call out names, but I did look up that article. I wasn't surprised to find out who had written it. I'll just leave it at that. And I don't know if they chose the headline or not, but that's a really horrible headline. It is such a great district that we have here, and really, really amazingly dedicated teachers and staff. And I mean, your guys are all here again, you know, it's like, I know you don't have to be here, but you are. And I experienced that firsthand, you know, the joy of Forest Grove too. Both my little girls, who are not little anymore, but you know, we were a Forest Grove family. And you know, I love all the schools, but I do have a really, really special place in my heart for Forest Grove. So anyway, I don't have anything more to contribute other than just an appreciation to everybody, because I know everybody is working their tails off, and we're going to pull together. You know, I do have one more little thought though, because I just kind of looked through our board goals, and I know and we've talked about it before too, but in the future, I'd like to talk about it more. It's like I looked for the word parent in our board goals, and I don't see it enough. And that's one of the things I think we've all kind of kicked around a little bit too. It's like, how do we make it more of a community? How do we get, you know, because my girls were lucky enough to have, you know, two parents and who were really engaged and you know, and able to spend the time with it, and not every family has that. So I just like to think about that a little bit more next time we go through our board goals too. How do we you know, just engage more, not just with parents, but with the community too. You know, it's like, how do we do that? Because we're doing pretty good there, but it's like we can always do better, I think, with this, you know, bringing in those folks too and helping them help their kids too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyway,
parents are
thank
key.
you for letting me go on.
Parents and grownups. I think sometimes too, it could even be something where it's like, if staff knows that pretty much with every item, the board's going to ask, how did you involve the parents? How did you involve the community? How did you involve the students? If they know that going in, they're going to rise up and they're going to make sure they've included them and make us all excited when they do presentations. So could be just even something like that. So we'll save that for our goals discussion. I love that you brought that up. Thank you, Brian. Did I miss anyone?
Could I
Trustee
ask
Otmar?
I just had a thought about, we talked about measuring joy in students, and that the Healthy Kids Survey is coming up.
Mm.
Is there a way to somehow, I don't know how that's going to work with the timing, but to compare the numbers, I guess at each elementary and at the high school, at all the schools that participate, to see if there's some correlation. I don't know if there's too big of a gap in between, but just to sort of work the data and see if there's a way to correlate, you know, happiness versus low test scores, or feeling of emotional stability versus low test scores. I don't know. It's just something that popped into my head.
Oh, go ahead, please. Technically, public comment is over, but Mr. Jordan, I mean, that's okay, right? Because it's not, it's more like, it's his item, so he's coming back.
Follow up. Yeah, that's.
No, I think
It's your items.
I think it's, yeah, it's your item. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that what we can do is, if we can put together kind of a package of data, what we aren't going to be able to do is take the individual student's response from the CHKS, match that to the individual student score. What we can is that we do that with the core social emotional learning assessment that we give. And what I can do is I can share the questions that are on that assessment with the board so you can see some of the data that we're getting from that. The core SEL survey is given in the fall and in the spring. And when we put together the data analysis tool, that's going to be part of what teachers are going to have access to. I had a really powerful experience with that in one of the SST meetings when I was at Forest to Forest Grove. We had a family that wasn't able to show, so we took some time and looked at the students' scores for each one of the questions. And then we looked at the areas of need that were identified there. And the student who was in third grade, mind you, who was in third grade, had identified in that core SEL assessment survey the exact concerns, right, that were identified by teachers. I have trouble expressing my emotions, has trouble expressing himself in words, right? I mean, there was about 4 items and they all aligned. And I became a believer in that survey after that. Teachers do a good job of doing it like as a class so they can explain what the question means when they're younger, right? And then the kids answer. But yes, so we have an assessment that's like that we can start to look and see if the data correlates. It might not be CHKS. Okay. Yeah, there it is.
Trustees, any other comments? I think this was a great discussion. It's 9:48, so we're not going to have to extend the meeting. This is almost our last item, but I just want to make sure everyone has had a chance to speak. Trustees, okay? Okay. All right. So thank you, Director Rogoman. Thank you. Moving on, future agenda items. Clerk McNary, anything?
No. Thanks.
Okay. Trustee Otmar? Nope. Okay. Trustee Brian Swanson?
Nope. No, thank you.
Okay. I do not have any. Dr. Hazen, you got 2. What do you got?
2 quick ones, just to make sure, again, as I mentioned, and was not planning on linking them, but the equity item, again, just a discussion on what, and actually, I mean, in some ways, the response from Principal Arbrun hit that pretty much out of the park, that, maybe it's letting the sites come to us more with that. So maybe I'll pause that thinking.
You mean like
well,
elementary alignment or think something like
yeah,
that?
and exactly what equity means for our district. We had an idea of trying to talk about what is needed, what we need to do. And again, really trying to engage that. But just because I know our agenda thinks that was one thing that dropped off with some of the other items that came on.
It was brought up at our goal meeting and was going to get brought up again because it, so I don't want you to feel like it got dropped off.
No, I don't mean it in a bad way. I just mean that it's one I want to just make sure it still has a pin in it because yeah.
Okay, so you'll bring it back up at the goal meeting?
Definitely. But it was one I submitted an item on a while ago too. So no worries on that. Just want to make sure it doesn't get forgotten about. The second one I just wanted to bring up is one I submitted on actually elementary Spanish, because I remember before I was on the board, we discussed the idea of Spanish, and there was the discussion of no language versus like full immersion, and we're the somewhere in between, where I think the somewhere in between was the right place to start. But I would really love to hear how that's going within district and consider the possibility, if it's warranted, of the sites of expansion downwards, getting this started with K-2 now, because we've had it going and I've heard almost nothing but amazing things about our teachers at the sites, Senora Nunez most recently. So would love to have that brought back up.
Okay, so you'd like to see, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just was saying as an agenda item.
So you'd like to see maybe an update on the current Spanish programming and possible ideas for advancement or expansion?
For TK through 2. Yeah.
Yes, for TK through 2.
For TK through 2, okay.
In particular, I mean, again, if that's what's validated by what's been done, if that's agreed upon by others, that's what I would like to see.
Well, it's okay to bring an update and then we can discuss further if it's, how it's working, if it's working, do we want to increase grades? All those questions can be addressed during that time. That's fine with me. I think that's a great time. We haven't really had an update on it since before you were on the board, if I'm remembering right. So I'm okay with adding that. Clerk Renier, you're nodding, Brian's nodding, Trustee. Okay. So if you don't mind, Mr. Jordan, last time you'll be adding future agenda items in a good way, because now you, like Clerk McNary said, you will have one major job instead of two major jobs at the same time. Public comment on future agenda items, anybody? And also please remember, if you have a future agenda item, we have an online link, PGUSD board website. You can click on it. It's a really simple, very quick Google Doc to submit agenda items. Mr. Jordan, do you want Elliot to submit his Spanish one through that process, or
Already done.
you've got it?
It's
You already did it.
It's-
Aha. Okay. Yes, you've already done it. Okay. Louis, anyone online? No. Any staff / public member who would like to add an agenda item? Oh my gosh. Someone just rolled their eyes at me. Okay. With that, it is 9:52 and I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.